3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Palais Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the USAA Army Navy Radio Row. This is the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You can always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. We got a whole lot to do today as we get you set for America's game, Army and Navy, that comes your way tomorrow. We got a Heisman Trophy award to see how that's going to be given out tomorrow evening as well. A lot going on in the college football universe, in addition to the NFL as well. Stu and I took the train down together last night. It was delayed 20-25 minutes, which is not that bad considering how just incompetent the train service is from time to time. I was kind of like in the father role here, where I wanted to make sure everything was okay with Stu. So I got us some sandwiches, and we ended up eating those sandwiches in the terminal as we had about an extra 20 minutes because we thought it was going to be a mad dash to the train station. And then on the train, it was about like 3-hour and 15-minute train ride. And Stu and I were sitting right next to each other in our big comfy seats on the Amtrak, and we had the extra leg room, and we were watching this terrible, and I mean terrible, Thursday night football game. I thought that was the first half of the SEC championship game all over again between Georgia and Texas, except this time the stakes weren't that high. The stage wasn't that big when you had to watch that San Francisco 49ers team go up against the LA Rams. I'm happy the Rams won because I don't think the San Francisco 49ers are going anywhere this year. They could be right back into the fold next season, but this is just one of those years where everything has gone wrong when we take a glance for the San Francisco 49ers. And now when we look at this football team, they have dug themselves into such deep of a hole. They need to win every game the rest of the season. They did not win so last night. So now I look at the 49ers, and their season is over. And what a terrible ending for the 49ers. It's one thing to be lethargic on offense, all right? You're without Christian McCaffrey. Brandon Ayuk is out for the season. But when you have Deebo Samuel, and I know, right, I'm not a fan of Deebo. I really don't have a big issue with him because I appreciate when he came on our show and hung up on us because I was asking him about the Philadelphia Eagles from comments that he said. You know, he was a boring interview to begin with either way, and he was saying nothing. So if you're going to do that, at least get us some publicity and hang up the phone. But, man, I know he likes to drop our call. I don't know how many footballs he'd like to drop as well. And that's what happened with Deebo Samuel last night. And you cannot be chirping on social media, complaining that you're not getting the ball, and then late in the game, Brock Purdy hits you right in the hands, and you drop the football. That's just inexcusable. And you look at Brock Purdy, that's going to be fascinating to see what they do with that contract and how they end up paying him moving forward, because he's good enough to get a contract. But if Brock Purdy gets $50 million a year, if he gets $55 million a year, $60 million a year for a guy who's at best the 10th best quarterback in this league, if everything goes right, even when he had a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl. I know they're going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, but they couldn't slam the door shut. I will never criticize someone for getting the bag, for getting a big-time deal. More power to you, God bless, but it would be crazy if Brock Purdy gets one of these record-breaking contracts this past year. So the 49ers, they're going nowhere. The Arizona Cardinals, they're going to be a football team that I think they've been a competitive group this year, but they're not going to make the postseason. This NFC West, it's coming down to, and we said this yesterday, the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. And I think the way that the Seahawks schedule is, it's tougher. It is a more difficult road to navigate in their next 4 games. Now the Rams only have 3 games left in their regular season with the victory last night. So for the LA Rams, I know that I wouldn't want to say you wipe some sweat off your forehead. Maybe you'll wipe all the rain that was raining down and pouring down on you last night in that football game off your forehead, and you go, okay, sloppy Thursday night game. We were fortunate to win it, but you needed to be on the right side of that, even with how sloppy and how ugly that game did look and how that game did play on out. I'll tell you, I give credit to the Rams defense. I do. And I think that Rams defense, I've been on that since the beginning of the season. I know everyone's like, oh my goodness gracious, they lost Aaron Donald, one of the greatest defensive players of all time. But the moves they made in the draft with Turner and then also getting the Florida State duo this past year with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, you don't replace a player like Aaron Donald. You know, it's not going to be one dude, but the group collective effort has been really damn impressive by this Rams defense, and I give them credit for the position, even after that terrible start to the season, that they have put themselves in to not only salvage this season, but be a team that could go on a run. And this is a Rams team that I get it. Philadelphia, even with their locker room problems, they're a heck of a team. You take a glance at the Detroit Lions. They are an exceptional football team with only 1 loss on the season. But after that, when you look inside the NFC, it's humming. Like, seriously, does anyone love the Green Bay Packers this year? The Minnesota Vikings, Brian Flores should be a head coach in this league once again. And he's done a phenomenal job on that defensive side of the ball. I get it. Sam Darnold's having a phenomenal season. He is having an MVP quality season. He will not win the MVP. It will either be Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley, and I think it's going to be Josh Allen. But I look at this Vikings team, there's still that feeling of even though Sam Darnold has played really well this year, it's still Sam Darnold. Can you see him winning 3 games in the NFC to get to a Super Bowl? So this Rams team, they just need to get in. And if the Rams get in, they could be a legitimate threat, even with how poorly their offense played last night. And trust me, I'm not happy because I said to Stu halfway through the train down here. And you know what, by the way, Stu, I'm on to you a little bit because we were trying to find a place on the train to sit. And at first we made a left coming down the escalator at Penn Station, and all the seats were filled up. And Stu said, no, maybe we should go to the right. Stu was saying, go to the right, go to the right, go to the right. When we eventually went to the right, and then Stu was directing traffic, because I follow Stu. Right? I'm not leading the charge here. If I'm leading the charge, it's the blind leading the blind. But Stu goes, now how about we go in this cart? And we sit down, and then 5 minutes later, I look up, and I see a big sign that says quiet car.
Uh-oh.
So that's a good job out of you, Stu, that you directed me, right? You led the horse to the well, and you basically told me, you know, usually the horse could drink at the well. You said, shut up. You bloviating jackass. Like, I hear enough of you for 3 hours a day, and you made me sit in that quiet cart last night. I thought that was a smart move by you because it prevented me having to talk your ear off for 3 hours. So a nice job by you, Stu.
You know, what can I say? I just wanted some peace and quiet on my train ride to watch that wonderful, wonderful football game that we watched for 3 hours.
Yeah, and the cart was out on the train down there, the cafe cart. So Stu was even looking to try to maybe get a drink or two after watching that first half. And they said, nope, we got no more liquor on this train down to D.C. So that was a terrible game. But the Rams, Cooper Kupp, I'm annoyed. I said this to Stu on the way down here because of the fact that I have Cooper Kupp on my fantasy team. And Cooper Kupp put up a big fat goose egg last night. So I'm probably already screwed. I know nobody cares about my fantasy football team, but I do. And my fantasy football team got off to a rough start in the playoffs with Cooper Kupp putting up 0 points. So long story short here with the Rams, it's either going to be them or Seattle make the playoffs. I think it's going to be the Rams. You look at the NFC picture, Eagles will get in. They'll win their division, doing so. You look at the North, it's going to be the Lions. The South, I think it's now going to be Tampa Bay. I don't like the way Kirk Cousins is playing. The West, I'm going to say it's the Rams. And then you got those 3 wild card spots. I'm looking at Green Bay. I'm looking at Minnesota. And then that other spot, it's going to be the Washington Commanders. So that's who I think the 7 playoff teams are. But when you look at teams that could get to the Super Bowl, clearly Philly can. Clearly the Lions can. I don't think the Packers can this year. They have not beat a really good team this year. What their best win is the Houston Texans. And Love didn't even play all that well in that game. I think he had under 100 passing yards in that game. Minnesota, they got a shot. I just can't envision them getting to a Super Bowl. It's tough, but they got a shot. So you look at it and you go through the rest of the teams. The Commanders aren't getting there. It's just a blessing that they're going to be in the postseason and how quickly they turned it around. But I take a glance at that NFC West, and I see the Rams, and I go, if Stafford gets in, even though he should have thrown like 7 interceptions last night and the 49ers couldn't hold on to the football, you have Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, you got Cooper Kupp, Stafford, the play calling of McVay, and that defense that gets better and better and better each and every week with that young core, that young nucleus, I do think the Rams could be a sleeping giant in the postseason picture, and I do have a future on them from the beginning of the season when we were in Vegas doing our show at Circa Resorts, which was an unbelievable trip back in August, and it was right then and there that I put a future on the Rams to get to the Super Bowl this upcoming year. So Rams season, it will continue. The 49ers, what a disaster. It's just one of those years. We'll get to the Devondre Campbell situation. He's now been released, but how gutless is he? Coach says to go in the game, you say no, and you basically quit on your team. That is just absolutely pathetic and absolutely just despicable. And, I saw Josina Anderson, and I know Josina Anderson is very pro-player, and I'm not anti-player, right? We talked to a lot of players, had a lot of good relationships with players, but how she is kind of criticizing people last night who were saying, hey, cut Devondre Campbell. You're like, oh, you got to get the other side of the story. Oh, you got to have him speak to the team. Why? That's the most gutless thing you could do as a player when your coach tells you to go in and you're like, nah, I don't feel like going in. And it was clear after the game, Kyle Shanahan was like, he's done. That situation's going to play on out. So I don't understand why Josina Anderson, and maybe, right, she uses Devondre Campbell as one of the sources. Like maybe there's a relationship there. I don't know. But anyone defending Devondre Campbell last night, I just don't see it. So that's pretty much the NFL landscape. We're going to do a lot of college today. Army Navy Radio Row, USAA presented by, and we appreciate them for having us down here in D.C. We got a loaded guest list for you. Robert Griffin III is going to stop by in about 8 minutes or so from now. Actually, Stu, this is a good question. I haven't thought it until now. Brian Jones is going to stop by. He hosted on this network for many years. He did Mojo with Chris Moore, and then he did the morning show with Greg Giannotti. I will say this. I would say between Brian Jones and myself, and maybe Pharrell, that has to be the 3 loudest hosts ever. Loudest. Not the best. I'm just saying loudest in terms of how loud we speak in the history of the network. Pharrell, Brian Jones, and yours truly, and Zach Gelb. And I think BJ would kind of take the number 1 spot because that's one loud son of a bitch, if I'm being honest.
At least Monday through Friday hosts.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe
Carl
Ken
Dukes
Carmen,
is loud too.
Ken Carmen, I think, can be pretty loud.
Yeah.
He used to host the weekends.
Yeah, he's a jolly fella.
I think you nailed it, especially Monday through Friday.
Yeah. And Pharrell, he was loud, but just the raspiness of his voice kind of lowered the voice a little bit. Like, hey, it's Scotty Pharrell on the bench, shake it up. But we're going to do a ton of college football today. RG3 going to stop by in a bit. Brian Jones coming up at the top of the hour. EJ Manuel, the former Florida State quarterback, is going to join us at 4:40 p.m. Eastern, 1:40 p.m. Pacific time. And then Ron Rivera, the former coach of the Carolina Panthers, also spent some years with the Chicago Bears, as you know, and with the Commanders. He's going to stop by live on set at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific time. And when we take a glance at kind of the award landscape in college football, last night we had a lot of awards given out. And Travis Hunter won a lot of them. Walter Camp Player of the Year, AP Player of the Year, but then Ashton Jeanty won the Maxwell last night. And, you know, when I was growing up, my dad used to always tell me this. He would say the Maxwell at one point was more important than the Heisman Trophy. In my lifetime, it's always been the Heisman Trophy. But for Ashton Jeanty to win the Maxwell, I wonder what that means, and it's different awards, for his chances to win the Heisman Trophy. And I did some number punching late last night. We got to the hotel. Stu said enough of you. Stu went to bed. I sat up late. I watched a little Surviving Barstool last night. I was watching some of the reactions from the awards. And I said, let me punch some numbers here on people that won the Maxwell that have gone on to win the Heisman Trophy. The last 10 Maxwells that have been given out from 2014 to 2023, only Tua Tagovailoa and Michael Penix Jr. didn't end up winning the Heisman. So they won the Maxwell, didn't win the Heisman. 8 of the last 10 Maxwell Award winners have gone on to win the Heisman. So you would think, Ashton Jeanty's going to win the Heisman coming up on Saturday. But then there was a trend from 2004 to 2013, another 10-year stretch, where only Tim Tebow and Cam Newton won the Maxwell and then gone on to win the Heisman. So very conflicting information. Now, Travis Hunter won the AP Player of the Year. Just because you could say, Zach, let's go with the recent one from 2014 to 2023. 8 out of the 10 guys that have won the Maxwell have gone on to win the Heisman. But for the AP Player of the Year in the last 10 years, 9 out of 10 who won the AP Player of the Year have gone on to win the Heisman. The only one that didn't was Christian McCaffrey. Walter Camp Player of the Year in the last 10 years. 8 out of the last 10 players to win the Walter Camp Player of the Year have gone on to win the Heisman. The only 2 that didn't were Tua Tagovailoa and Kenneth Walker. So we could sit here and talk about the Heisman until we're blue in the face, and we have done that. I do think Ashton Jeanty, from start to finish, has been the most consistent and the best player in college football. Who's the most explosive, though? I do believe that it is Travis Hunter. And that, to me, is going to be fascinating to see how the votes shake on out. Because Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward, who are also finalists, it's just going to be who finishes in third. If you are a voter, and I happen to be one, I find a hard way in evaluating your vote how the decision isn't between Ashton Jeanty and Travis Hunter. So congratulations to both of them. Ashton Jeanty winning the Maxwell Award, and then you had Travis Hunter winning a ton of the awards, the AP Player of the Year, Walter Camp, and a bunch of others, top receiver, Blitnikoff Award as well. And we would probably run out of time if we continue to name all the awards that Travis Hunter did add to his trophy case last night. So a whole lot to do. We are here broadcasting live from USAA Army Navy Radio Row, America's Game, 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. You can check out our YouTube stream today, and you just search Infinity Sports Network on YouTube. I am wearing a full suit. I am wearing an American flag full suit from head to toe, courtesy of the folks at Shinesty. So this is a very fun suit that they were able to send to me. And, when we go on these events, you try to stick out a little bit. I'm 6'4", so usually when a bunch of media members, I stick out like a sore thumb anyway. But I elected to wear the full Uncle Sam type of suit. So we got a whole lot cooking today. This is the Zach Gelb Show live from USAA Army Navy Radio Row. Once again, RG3 coming up in 5 minutes. Brian Jones at the top of the hour. EJ Manuel at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time today. And Ron Rivera at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. We'll come on back with the Heisman Trophy winner, Robert Griffin III.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, welcome back in. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network, as we are here, USAA Army Navy Radio Row, and now joining us, one of our favorites, the 2011 Heisman Trophy winning quarterback out of Baylor. That, of course, is our pal Robert Griffin III. RG3, how you been, my man?
I'm doing good, brother. You?
I'm doing fantastic.
You
Can't
look
complain.
amazing. Look at
Well,
this.
thank you.
USA. USA.
I hung out with you a few years ago at a Super Bowl party. I go, RG3 knows how to dress. I look like a schmuck, so I said I have to upgrade the suit this year.
You look great. I saw it as soon as I was walking around the court. I said, "Oh, he's got the suit. This is incredible."
He's got that swagger back. So we're on a bunch of stations around the country, as you know. One of our affiliates is KTIK in Boise.
Okay.
And I told them today we're having RG3 on. You're like a god out there. I love you with the Jeanty support.
Yeah.
We have the Heisman Trophy coming out tomorrow night. We'll find out who it's going to be. I think it could only be Travis Hunter or Ashton Jeanty.
Agreed.
How do you think this thing's going to play on out?
I think you're right in the sense it's between those two, but I think the fact that we got Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward in the finalists shows you that it's going to be a lot closer race than people anticipated, because it comes down to preference. All year, I've been saying that Jeanty is the best player at his position. And because of that, if he has an opportunity to break Barry Sanders' record, you would feel like, oh, they're going to lean that direction. But then when you look at award season and you understand that what Travis Hunter is doing is something that no one's ever done. Mm-hmm. We've never seen this. You talk about Charles Woodson and Chris Gamble. It's like, but no, those guys didn't do it in the way that he is. So how are people going to weigh that out? Because Travis Hunter just won the Blitnikoff. He won the AP Player of the Year. So you know that voters are leaning towards him in certain aspects. But the fact that Dylan Gabriel is in there and Oregon is the number one team in the country, but he doesn't have the best numbers. And, you could make the argument that Shador should be in. You could make the argument that Cam Scatteraboo could be a Heisman finalist, as well as Bryson Daly from Army. So I look at the way that the voting happened, and I say to myself, wow, maybe people will be shocked at who wins the Heisman come tomorrow, or maybe it'll just be a lot closer race. But I think it does boil down to preference.
I have a bizarre theory, and it actually has to do with politics and the Heisman Trophy. So when President Trump won the election the first go around, I think there were a lot of people who were afraid to publicly say they were going to vote for President Trump, and then they did so quietly.
Okay.
In a weird way, and I'm a big fan of Coach Prime, Shador, Travis Hunter. Even heard Shador say it the other day, if Travis doesn't win, we're going to cause havoc. I wonder if because I know how some voters are, they get afraid of getting backlash. I wonder how many voters are voting Jeanty quietly because they're afraid of what happens if they say publicly it's not Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I can see that. And I can see it in this sense as well. We both know this. It's not just politics, but it's also marketing, right? So when people are voting for these awards, they're voting for the best player at a certain position, but it might be that they're voting for the guy that they think they want their brand attached to the most. And I think that's a real thing. And I think we have to be cognizant of that. And I'm not saying that the Heisman is doing that, because there's so many Heisman voters.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know where these votes are coming from. So, but who wants their brand associated with a certain person? And you already know that if Travis doesn't win, the narrative is going to be it's because those voters didn't like Deion Sanders and they held that against him. And if it's a close race, I don't think I would say that. If it's not a close race and Jeanty wins, I think there might be some validity to that.
How much hate do you think there actually is, though, for Coach Prime? Because I love the guy.
Yep.
I said years ago he should get an SEC job when he was at Jackson State. I told it to his face, like, I want to see you at Auburn. So is it just Coach Prime kind of stirs that up because then his team feeds off of it? Or do you think there is a large portion of people that actually hate Coach Prime in Colorado?
I think it started when he went to Colorado. I don't think people hated him. I think when they were 3-0 at Colorado, I don't think people hated him. But I think when they were sitting there at 3-7, and they were still one of the most viewed teams in the country, and he had brought so much more money into Colorado, and all the TV networks were talking about Colorado every single day on TV, that's when I think people started to hate, because now they felt like, oh, it's not warranted. Oh, they might have started the season strong, but now they're a terrible team. Why are we still covering them? Well, you're covering them because their coach is a Hall of Fame cornerback who has two of the best players in the entire country. So now you turn around this year and they're actually vying for a Big 12 championship. Now people are like, now it's like, well, now you should be talking about them. But guess what? Their ratings are lower. We're not talking about them as much on TV. So why is that? I think there's this innate thing with the news that people they won't admit it, but they want to hear the bad stuff. Right? They want to hear about the guy that robbed the bank.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear about the firefighter who saved the cat out of the tree.
Well, that stupid article that came out earlier this year with it was trying to paint the program. And I go, who the heck's this writer? And I go, this can't be true.
Yeah. So to me, there's people who take veiled shots at Deion. And because he said what he was going to do and backed it up, now it's like, well, how can we hurt him now? We can't hurt him with what we say in a paper because they're winning games. We can't say anything about his son because his son looks like he's going to be the first pick in the draft.
Can't say anything about recruiting either.
Can't say anything about recruiting because he's bringing in great recruits, and he rebuilt their entire offensive line, and they were better this year than they were last year, drastically. So how can we hurt him? Well, we can hurt him by not voting for Travis Hunter for the Heisman.
You know what is a misnomer about him? He's an old school football coach, but he embraces the new way to promote. And you saw his teams from the first 2 weeks of the season. North Dakota State, Nebraska spanked them, absolutely smacked them. And then to see the way that team got better in the trenches, on the defensive line, the receivers that have developed, I thought this team wasn't going to be bowl eligible this year. Not because I didn't like them.
Right.
I just thought it was Shador, Travis Hunter, and those were the individuals, the star power, 2 of the top 5 picks in the draft, could be 1 and 2.
Right.
And then it was everybody else.
Right.
Everybody else got so much better
with
the transfer portal and the way they developed them from last year to this year.
And what I would say is I think the loud minority is the one that is preaching the hate for Prime. But you know this, there's a mob mentality.
Yeah.
Once the loud minority starts saying things, it can start to impact people's opinion. And I think maybe a little bit of that is what happened. But to your point, Deion, this is the difference between Deion and Bill Belichick. Deion can connect with the younger generation. He knows what they want. Yes, they want to win. Yes, they want to build their brand. They also want to have fun. And he knows how to do that. If Deion didn't have the eye and the heart of his team, they would have fell apart this year. And they didn't. They never did. Yes, they lost the game at the end of the year to Kansas that would have put them, honestly, probably in the college ball playoff. But they would have crumbled throughout the year after that Nebraska loss, and they didn't do that. So now you got Bill Belichick going in there, and he's saying, I'm going to run this like an NFL program. Well, Deion's doing that, but Bill is going to do it with no fun. So unless Bill Belichick can tap into the fun aspect of it and show a little bit more of that media personality that he did, or whatever he had in that media personality, he won't be able to connect with the younger generation.
If he does that and he takes your advice, RG3, what do you think the ceiling is for Coach Belichick at UNC?
Yeah, I think they will win consistently. I think at North Carolina, they will win consistently whether he has fun or not. I think the difference between them winning national championships and just winning consistently is whether he can connect with the players on a fundamental layer.
He can win a national championship at UNC?
1,000%.
Really?
1,000% he can win a national championship.
I just thought the ceiling, and I'm a Patriot fan, I love Bill Belichick, I just thought the ceiling would be win an ACC championship.
Well, I'm a believer that if you can win the ACC, you can win a national championship.
Okay.
So I don't believe in conference biases. I'm actually happy that the college football playoff played out the way that it did, and we have the matchups that we have, because now you get to really see cross-conference matchups non-traditional matchups, settle it on the field, put the football in the middle of the field, and let's see who's the best.
8 out of the last 10 years, whoever's won the Maxwell has won the Heisman.
Oh.
The decade before that, you know this, you didn't win the Maxwell, you won the Heisman. It was 2 out of 10.
All right.
Does it matter that Ashton Jeanty won the Maxwell last night?
I do think it matters, but you also have to look at...
In terms of the Heisman?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I don't think it matters in terms of the Heisman.
What's your biggest college football playoff take right now with the matchups that we see?
Ooh. I think Notre Dame makes a run.
I'll tell you this. I think I don't know which one, but I think one of Arizona State or Boise State will be in the Final Four because I don't love Penn State and I don't love Texas. They beat nobody this year.
Okay. I think at this point it will come down to I'm a big Jimmys and Joes guy. It's the Jimmys and the Joes. Ashton Jeanty, if Ashton Jeanty is healthy, Boise State will give any team they play hell because every guy on that field knows, man, we just got to keep it close so Ashton can go run for 200 yards and do his thing. But I still believe Oregon's the best team in the country. I know they're ranked number 1 and undefeated, but I think Dan Lanning, what he's able to do and how he gets his guys motivated is something I've really never seen at the college level in quite some time. He's the best motivator in college football.
Last thing I'll ask you, because I know you got to run RG3 here with us, Army Navy Radio Row on behalf of USAA. I'm so happy what has happened to the Commanders. It's great that Daniel Snyder doesn't own the team anymore. I don't have to say that quietly anymore when I come down here. Josh Harrison, a really good job. Dan Quinn's a solid coach. We know what Peters is, but most importantly, they have the quarterback. I know how much you still love the organization, but how about what you've been seeing from Jaden Daniels this year?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Jaden Daniels, he's already proven that he's a franchise quarterback. And this is what I was telling people about Chicago. And I'm not a villain. I'm not trying to tear anybody down, but it's why I said that Caleb Williams needed to use his power in Chicago or before he got there to make them make a decision on Matt Eberflus. If Eberflus was going to be their starting guy, be their coach, extend him, make it public. That way it takes the public pressure off of his seat so that we know that they can grow together. They never did that. So now Caleb's going to have his 3rd offensive coordinator and his 2nd head coach in his 2nd year in the NFL. Structure matters. So when you look at the Commanders, new ownership, new GM, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, and that offensive coordinator has experience working with a dual threat guy, now that's when you create a growth environment for your quarterback. So I know everyone's like, you got to get the quarterback. You got to get the quarterback. Yes, you do have to get the QB, but you have to build the structure around the QB to allow him to have a growth environment to lead and grow and be a quarterback of the future. So I think Washington's done an amazing job of that. And like, even on top of that, being here in DC with USAA, having an opportunity to work with the kids. We did a Heroes Huddle literally right outside of Northwest Stadium where I created all my, not all of them, but a lot of my football memories to give back to the military families. USAA's created a structure of growth for our military for us to be able to give back to the military communities. That's why we're all here for this game. This is America's game. But it's really all of us sitting down and saluting all of our past, present, and future military men and women
100%.
And saying thank you. Hey, thank you that Zach Gelb can wear this
ridiculous suit.
Amazing suit, right? And be able to do this interview because we have the freedom to do that.
100%.
So I'm a big structure guy. No single player is greater than the whole. So if you create it like the Commanders have for Jaden Daniels, the whole is better. And that's why I think the Commanders are set up for long-term success.
He's my man, RG3. RG3, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you, bro.
We'll get to a news brief next. Let's get the latest update in with El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, Zach, for high-quality, high-performance golf clubs, apparel that delivers style and comfort, premium golf balls, award-winning gloves, and more, make it a PXG holiday for the golfer in your life. Find the PXG store near you at pxg.com. Chiefs have made a living this year, living on the edge. 12 wins in 13 games, clinched another division, trying to earn a 1 seed and a bye. They're hoping to get reinforcements as well. Hollywood Brown practiced for the first time since surgery in August. Unlikely he returns Sunday against the Browns, as they now got a 3-week window in order to activate him off IR. Also starts 3 games in 11 days for KC, with Patrick Mahomes not exactly looking forward to the gauntlet.
It's not like a good feeling. I'm excited to play on Christmas, to hopefully get back from what we did last year, but You never want to play this many amount of games in this short of time. It's just not great for your body, but at the end of the day, it's your job, your profession. You have to come to work and do it.
No surprise, the 49ers have released linebacker Devondre Campbell after we refused to enter the game last night in the third quarter. Dolphins released Odell Beckham Jr. Baseball, Cubs reportedly get Kyle Tucker from the Astros in exchange for Isak Paredes, Cam Smith, and Hayden Wesneski. And the Yankees get Brewers closer Devin Williams. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
And it's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Let's start off with the game from last night. San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. Here is Kyle Shanahan after his team lost their season pretty much over, and he reveals that Devondre Campbell in the third quarter was told to go in, and Devondre Campbell ended up saying, yeah, I'm good. Here's Kyle Shanahan talking about the Devondre Campbell situation.
With Devondre Campbell, he didn't play and he went into the locker room at some point.
Yeah, said he didn't want to play today.
Play today?
Yep.
The coaching staff?
He did when I asked him why he didn't want to go in. So.
During the game or before?
No, that was in the third quarter.
So the last time I remember something like this happened was with Vernis Davis, his brother, who unfortunately has passed away since. But when he was in Buffalo, you remember that LaShawn McCoy situation? He's like, hey, I'm out. They retold that with Tre'Davious White, and it was LaShawn McCoy in a podcast where he just at halftime said, I'm good and I'm retiring. But for Devondre Campbell, I know Greenlaw and all that situation, the way that it's going down, back from injury, playing, and you got to be upset because you got reps taken away. But when the coach tells you to go in and you're on the active roster, so I understand every man has a decision to make, but that's just disrespectful to your teammates. And there's no surprise today that we find out that Devondre Campbell got released because there's no justifying it. It's not, oh, you had a bad day. Or it's, oh, no, you didn't have a bad night. Like, you missed a tackle, or you dropped an interception, or your hamstring was hurting you, and it looked like you dogged it on a play. He just did not want to go in. And to me, Devondre Campbell, he's had a up-and-down career, and the last few years he's kind of turned that around, and he's been a good player in this league. But I don't see how you bring him in ever again. Because we get into this all the time. There are some ugly things that happen off the field. And I say this all the time. If you are not in a jail cell and you do something terrible off the field, right or wrong, you're going to get another opportunity if you could play, because of the fact that, teams want guys that are talented and that can help you win. And like Deshaun Watson with that situation, why did he get a fully guaranteed contract with the Browns? It's because the Browns thought he could still be a successful quarterback and a winning quarterback in this league. When you look at Devondre Campbell, and I know he didn't do anything illegal, like I get that, but Devondre Campbell to just say, yeah, I don't want to play, for things that aren't illegal, just in terms of football matters, that's as bad as it gets for a football player when you just say, yeah, coach, I'm not going in, I don't feel like playing. And a lot of teammates were annoyed with him afterwards, and obviously he got released today. Here's Kyle Shanahan, because a lot of people were saying, hey, Devondre Campbell quit. You got a lot of guys probably in and out on the season because this is a team that's used to going to the Super Bowl, going far in the playoffs, and we know they're not making the playoffs this year. Are you afraid that you're losing the locker room here, Coach?
With Devondre opting to not go into the game, what do you need to do to ensure that you don't lose the rest of the locker room?
I haven't lost anybody. That's somebody who doesn't want to play football. It's pretty simple. I mean, I think our team and myself, we know how we feel about that, so I don't think we need to talk about him anymore.
Yeah, you know what? The other situation, too, Antonio Brown, that was another one. I'll never forget that. I was coming back on a plane from New Year's, with my girlfriend at the time, now one of my many exes many years ago. And she goes, "Did you see this Antonio Brown thing?" And I go, "What do you mean?" And right, we're flying back football Sunday towards the end of the season. So I had the app, and I fire up the app, and yeah, there you go. Antonio Brown chucked up the deuces and ran right off the field with his shirt off. So, no one even knew about the Devondre Campbell situation until it was revealed after the game. When it comes to Antonio Brown, clearly he wanted it to be known that he was walking off the field, and it goes back to an injury and a bad relationship with Bruce Arians and Antonio Brown. Let's go back into that locker room, though. Shavarius Ward on the Devondre Campbell situation.
He's a professional. He's been playing for a long time. If he didn't want to play, he shouldn't have dressed out. He could have told him that before the game. So I feel like there was some stuff that he did. Definitely hurt the team because, D went down, and we needed a linebacker, and I think Flan was named up too. So for him to do that, that's some selfish stuff to me, in my opinion. Like, it's probably going to get cut soon, so, it is what it is with that.
That's what I didn't get, because I saw that last night you had Josina Anderson on social media getting very annoyed with people that were saying, oh, he should be cut. His own teammates were saying that. You can't quit on the team. That's as bad as it gets for things that aren't illegal. So I saw that she responded to that audio, actually, of what Ward said, and Josina Anderson's like, no, there's no need to jump to instant job loss. He should be given time to share his mindset, to talk with his teammates after more time to reflect and to demonstrate better judgment. What justification do you... Oh, guys, I just didn't feel like playing because we're going nowhere this year, and I'm annoyed that my reps have been cut. And then they want me to play. I'm not playing on their terms. Like, I understand sometimes defending players, and I understand when you're in that locker room every day and you're in the media, you try to be as friendly with as many players as you can. That's, I don't understand that one. That, to me, makes no sense to kind of try to give a lifeline to Devondre Campbell. All right, let's go one more on this Devondre Campbell situation. He's now been cut, but let's go to another leader of the team, this time on the offensive side of the ball, George Kittle, on his thoughts on the Campbell situation last night.
Does that create dissension or disbelief or just disconnection on the sideline?
Not disbelief or disconnection like as a team. That is one person who just decided not to, play for his teammates. And I don't think that doesn't make our offense look at each other and be like, wow, man, we're falling apart. It's more of or like the defense, hey, we're falling apart. It's more of a one person making like Mooney said, a selfish decision, and I'm with Mooney on that. And I've never been around anybody that's ever done that, and I hope I'm never around anybody that does that again.
So I don't think Kyle Shanahan's anywhere close to losing the locker room. Like Matt Eberflus, when he was with the Bears, clearly lost the locker room. He lost everything when he was the coach of the Bears, and he really lost the locker room. You could be a bad team, and a good coach could still not lose the locker room. The only one that was lost in that locker room was Devondre Campbell, and I'm not saying they needed something to galvanize this locker room, but when you have a player quit on your team, all the other 52 guys are like, yeah, we're not doing that. So even though Shanahan's having a miserable season and the 49ers have been a disaster this year, I don't look at them and say, oh, you got to move on from Kyle Shanahan, and he can't relay his message properly to the locker room because the other 52 guys got it. Devondre Campbell just did not. Alrighty, so Bill Belichick was introduced yesterday as the next head football coach at UNC. RG3 joined us in the last segment. He thinks Bill Belichick can 1,000% win a national championship. That was something. I think Bill's ceiling at UNC is just to win an ACC championship. But earlier in the week, there was this report that Bill Belichick basically gave a 400-page document, a manifesto to UNC, and he said, this is how we're going to build the program, this is what we're going to do. You either do it my way or I don't come to UNC. Belichick was asked about the 400-page manifesto yesterday at his introductory press conference on Chapel Bill, as Bill Belichick is now the new head football coach for UNC.
Just curious, there were reports that you had prepared a document or organizational Bible. Were those accurate? I reserve a follow-up if the answer is...
Yeah, don't believe everything you read in the papers, all right? I have no idea where that came from. I don't have a 400-page document. And to think I would just go out and hand it, come on, really.
Let me tell you something. I don't have no 400 stinking page document. I can't type 400 pages by myself. If anything, I would just have, you know, my ball boy Matty P do that if I needed to. But come on, what a stupid question. I wonder if that was actually true. I kind of believe Belichick that he didn't have some 400-page document. And if you're Belichick, you really need to craft up a 400-page document. Then you just sit down and you go, I got 6 Super Bowl rings. I'm the greatest coach of all time in the NFL. I know I've never coached college before, but what else are you doing, UNC? John Summerall didn't want the job from Tulane. Where else are you going? So I think some of the stuff that was reported was true, and then there's some things where I'm sure Belichick, right, had a plan and a vision, and he perfectly communicated that. But this 400-page document, I'm sure it's lying around there somewhere because, right, wouldn't you just bring it in a flash drive anyway and put it up on a screen? But if he actually printed out 400 pages and handed it to the chancellor at UNC, I would love to see, I would love to get a page of that and just get it signed by Bill Belichick and then frame it in the studio. Let's go to Ashton Jeanty. He won the Maxwell Award last night, Heisman Trophy finalist. You have Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, Dylan Gabriel, and Cam Ward all in New York City tomorrow. We'll be at the Heisman tomorrow night, and we'll see who wins the award. I only think it could be Jeanty or Hunter, but this is Ashton Jeanty on winning the Maxwell Award last night, courtesy of the fine folks at the ESPN.
I mean, I'm at a loss for words right now. This is truly a blessing, and, you know, to be the first one ever at Boise State, just continuing that legacy and, you know, bringing change and to Boise State, and I'm just truly humbled and thankful to receive this award.
Just what an unbelievable story with Ashton Jeanty. And I know we all look at the transfer portal and NIL, and I have no problem with those things, but he stayed at Boise State. And it paid off. They have a bye. They're going to be in the college football playoff, and he's either going to finish second or first for the Heisman Trophy. Final one, Juan Soto was introduced yesterday, the newest member of the New York Mets. Juan Soto, did you talk to any Yankees players when making this decision, or since you guys lost to the LA Dodgers in the World Series? This is Juan Soto.
I haven't talked to any of those guys. Definitely, we talked to them through playoff, at the end of the playoffs, but after that, I make this process. I haven't talked to any of those.
So this is the weird part to me, Stu. You know, Francisco Lindor was on the phone with Juan Soto. Rafael Devers supposedly was talking to Juan Soto, right, as the Red Sox are trying to make him a member of the Red Sox. The Mets, obviously, they got him. How does Aaron Judge, you know, El Capitan, you know, not Derek Jeter, not Marco Belletti, but the current captain of the Yankees, and Aaron Judge, not pick up the damn phone and say, hey, Juan, you're wonderful. We want you to stay here in the big ballpark in the Bronx. Like, if I'm a Yankee fan, I know you guys have made moves since then. You got Devin Williams from the Brewers, right? Other moves as well. How do you not find a way, Fried, but how do you not at least call Juan Soto and do everything you can? It's weird that Judge, maybe he felt like he didn't need to recruit him, and they did everything they already could. As a captain, I feel like you have to do that. Even I know he has experienced the free agency a few years ago. Maybe he thought Soto wanted space, but you have to do it. Yeah, and I'm surprised that he didn't. All righty, we're here on behalf of USAA, Army, Navy, Radio Row, the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You can always hit us up, social media, Instagram and Twitter, at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. We're coming on back with hour number 2, live from USAA, Army, Navy, Radio Row.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we're on the road today. Radio Row, USAA, Army Navy Radio Row, and we are here all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. It is the Zach Gelb Show. Fun hour number one. We did have Robert Griffin III stop by. At some point this hour, we'll be joined by our old co-worker in Brian Jones. And trust me, when he's here, you'll know it because he is a very loud individual. And then E.J. Manuel will join us coming up later on in the hour. And Ron Rivera, the former head football coach, see him popping up a few times on the NFL Network, is going to join us as well. So a whole lot to do today. We get you set for Army-Navy coming up tomorrow. It should be a fun one. Bryson Daly, you know, we had Jeff Monken on earlier in the week, and I thought Bryson Daly was someone that should have got more Heisman Trophy consideration. It would have been nice to see him be a Heisman Trophy finalist, but I think a big reason why he didn't get there is, for people that don't know, when you get a Heisman Trophy vote, you only get 3 votes. So it is basically a blank online sheet, and it says first place, second place, third place. You need to put in the name and then the school where the athlete that you're selecting is participating in. So it's clear 2 names that have to be on everyone's list this year are Ashton Jeanty and Travis Hunter, right? They have to be, I would say, 1 or 2. And then it was, who's your third place vote? So when you look at the quarterbacks, Bryson Daly had a really good season and a really special season. But with that being said, it felt like the conversation for that third place vote was either Cam Ward, was Shedeur Sanders, or even Dylan Gabriel. We know that Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel were 2 out of the 4 Heisman Trophy finalists, with the other 2 being Travis Hunter and also Ashton Jeanty. So I would say this, if I could talk to the Heisman Trophy Trust, I would say let's do 5 votes. You get a first, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth place vote. And then I think then you could have it be a little bit more open up for guys like a Bryson Daly or a Cam Scatteraboo that comes out of Arizona State, and a few other guys as well, just because of the fact that when you only pigeonhole yourselves into 3 votes, it kind of doesn't let you give some shine to some other people. And also, hey, when it's a third place finish, sometimes then guys vote some lesser known people rather than the guys that are actually deserving there in this spot. And let me tell you something. Things about to get a little bit crazy here. Because I'll tell you, in the history of our network, I would say the loudest host ever in the history of the network is Brian Jones. Maybe Scotty Farrell would also be in that mix. Shake it up. We're here with Brian Jones. Wake your ass up. And then I would also say I got to be in that mix because I'm one loud, bloviating individual as well. But now joining us here, USAA Army Navy Radio Row. You see him all the time on CBS throughout the football season, the college football season. He does a great job on the pre and post show, and that is our guy Brian Jones, who, by the way, has maybe the best beard on television right now. I would go sit down with you at Westville, and I would get you some bacon because I know you like that bacon at Westville.
Oh, the best.
And we would have a grand old time. How you been?
I am great. You?
I can't complain. I've been fantastic.
This outfit, dude. What's up? Where I get one?
You can go to Shinesty.
Shinesty.
So Geo is sponsored by Shinesty.
Okay.
They are a ball hammock underwear. So if you need to be a little bit more comfortable down there, you could get some better underwear. And then also they make these
or you can go commando.
You could. Is that what you do on CBS Sports?
I'm not telling you my business.
So last time I saw you,
yes, sir,
I called my attorney afterwards because you assaulted me. Do you remember assaulting me in person?
I assaulted you. How many years ago was this?
This was last year at Radio Row for the Super Bowl.
What did I do?
Well, I saw you walking past me, and I said, there's Brian Jones, and in a joking way, and I'm going to move away when I do this, I said, horns down, horns down. And you came across as if I was like a running back, and you go, don't you ever do that.
And you just
punched
did it
me.
again.
Yeah, horns down.
And you just punched me.
Oh, well, now you can sue me back.
Don't ever do the inverted hook 'em.
Why do you
Unless
guys?
you have a death wish.
Why do you guys get so sensitive?
Because you are desecrating our sign. What do you mean? Why the hell we get sensitive? That's our sign. That's our symbol, and you're desecrating.
Well, I'm just glad now you guys are in the SEC because they let people now do horns down.
Well, I wasn't one that was advocating for them to outlaw it. If you want to stop people from doing it, kick their ass on the field or on the court. That's the only way you stop it. But, yeah, people do it. There's a time-honored history to poo-poo the Longhorns. And so now they're doing it in the SEC. With the refs last week as well. They were in on it also. Yeah.
That SEC championship game, it was over at halftime because you guys should have been up by a whole lot more.
Should have been 21-0.
Yeah.
At least.
And once you went into halftime, and I think it was 6-3.
6-3.
And you knew that Carson Beck got hurt. I sat there and I said, I've been watching Carson Beck all season. You never want to see somebody get hurt, but their offense is going to get a jolt of energy because Beck has just been so erratic this year.
It was – and I go back and watch the game tape each and every week, and it was excruciating to watch because they played so well, especially defensively. Yeah, I'm freezing. These are my hand warmers.
Yeah, I was.
You want one? It's freaking cold.
Where do you live now?
Texas, Austin. It was 70 degrees yesterday.
But you're in New York all the time. This isn't cold to you.
I go in the hotel, to the car, to the studio.
Hotel, motel,
studio, to the car, to the hotel. Especially this time of year when it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
So I'm watching that tape, and
you need some moisturizer, by the way, on those hands.
You telling me this is ashy season? I know I need some moisturizer. Minus 20 out here to my body. I got some moisturizer. Yeah. You just be quiet over there, old flag. You.
I saw Urban Meyer. I wanted to walk up to him and be like, "Are you going to try to plant me to get some revenge?" How ridiculous was that, by the way?
Oh, it's stupid, and they need to stop. And I'm glad Sark stopped some of our players during the Texas A&M game.
I mean, what's wrong with flag planting?
That's ridiculous. You
win the game.
You win the game. Take that. That's enough. You have bragging rights for 365 days or whenever you play them again. That's more than enough. Don't try to disrespect them, especially on their own field. Just take your dub, celebrate with your teammates, and get out of Dodge. That's all you need to do.
Why can't those Ohio State players, those losers that lost the game, just get off the field? You lost,
You're
go
not
home.
going to desecrate my damn field, okay?
What's
with
the
your
big
flag.
deal?
That's
it's a
the
flag.
big deal.
It's a fun celebration.
Well, you're going to try to plant one. See what happened to you.
Yeah, you'll probably assault me again.
Exactly. You're going to get assaulted. Correct.
This Texas team, and last year I thought Texas was going to win the Big 12. This year I thought they would be good. But I look at them this year, their best win is what, A&M? Are they a serious contender to go win it all?
Yes, when they play well. Yes, they're a serious contender, unless they face Georgia.
So you think they could beat any team but Georgia?
Yeah, and they've proven they can't. And they, as you just said, they should have been up 21-0. They come back in the second half. They can't stop the run. And for the life of me, I don't know why you don't put 11 in the box and force Gunner Stockton to throw the ball. I'd be damned if you're going to run on me. You're going to have to prove to us that you can pass Mr. Backup quarterback. And they couldn't stop him. They couldn't stop ETN, who once again had 2 touchdowns, almost 100 yards. So, yes, they're a legitimate football team. They play great. They just can't do it against Georgia for some reason. And you're not going to have as many opportunities when you play a comparable opponent such as Georgia. You've got to execute on the limited opportunities you have. Guys were open, and they just missed them. And I say, hey, quarterback, Ewers missed them. Guys were open. It had touchdowns. There were touchdowns to be had, and yet they didn't execute.
How much of a chance do you give Clemson in this one?
I give them a good chance. They got a running game with Maffa. This defense, watch this number 3, T.J. Parker. I think he's got 11, 12 sacks. This guy is bad. And he showed up last week versus SMU, made a ton of plays. They've got a good defense. They'll be ready to go. And Klubnik's going home. He's going back to Austin, so you know he's going to want to show out.
How about the quarterback situation? Because Quinn Ewers, I feel like, is one of the most disrespected quarterbacks the last 2 years, and all the guy does is win. But there is still
That's
a part
Texas.
of well, even in the SEC championship game, I'm sitting there. I go, I know the last time they played Georgia, they put Arch in for like 2 drives, and they went back to Quinn. I was sitting there, and I go, maybe we'll see Arch in the second half.
Well, you saw him a couple times. I know there was a 4th down play, I believe. They snapped it through his hands to Blue, and they got the first down. Far be it from me to tell Coach Sarkisian how to run his team. He's forgotten more football now than ever known. But I know this. It's a mixed bag with Ewers at times. So he's on, and then he's off. And once again, there were shots to be had. That last PI on Georgia when you went and kicked the tying field goal, it should have been a touchdown to number 5, Wingo. He was open. Lead the guy. Get the ball there. 3 years now, you've been watching this mixed bag where some days your starting quarterback is on, other days he's off, and you just can't have that. Not 3 years into this.
Do you think Quinn's definitely going to the pros after this?
I have no idea what his future holds. None whatsoever, and I'm not going to speculate.
Okay. Now, how about Arch? Because for me, I look at this the last 2 years, and I've just been sitting there and I've been watching, and I go, wait till Arch Manning. Wait till we see the full Arch Manning show. It feels like the last 2 years have been very successful. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like pigs in the blanket at a wedding. Like, they could be the best part of the night, but you're always wondering what's coming next, and that's what I'm really excited to see with Arch.
You have pigs in the blanket at the weddings you go to?
Yeah.
What type of weddings you going to, man?
It's a Jewish wedding.
They have pig?
Pigs in the blanket.
Yeah, you're supposed to be eating
pork. Let me tell you something.
What kind of Jewish wedding where they going to have pork?
I'm not kosher. You think this body's kosher? Come on.
No, that ain't no kosher.
But
take that flag off. We can't have our flag wrapped around a non-kosher body.
You know what? Hook them. See, now I can do whatever I want. But when I look at kind of Texas and Arch Manning, I think it's just going to be so fun. And really, back to the pigs in the blanket too. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Republican. I got family members. They just fight over politics. You put a pig in a blanket in front of everyone. Everyone's happy.
No way.
Yeah,
Really?
everyone's
I love
happy.
me a pig in a blanket. Rooter to the tutor, even eat the oink.
All right, how about Boise State? We're on KTIK. You know this, doing the national show in Boise. Ashton Jeanty, I heard you the other night. You think he should win the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, I would have him in the one hole right now. What he did was just magnificent. Everyone stacked the box. They knew they needed to stop him, and they couldn't. So, yeah, when everyone's loading up to stop you, and we were just discussing what Texas should have done, forcing Gunnar Stockton to pass the ball. Everyone's loading up to stop this kid, and they can't. So, yeah, I think he's the reason Boise is sitting there in the playoffs currently, the reason they won another Mountain West championship. So, yeah, I think he should be in that one hole, but I'm not at liberty to divulge who I'm voted for since I'm a Heisman voter.
Same here, but I would agree
Who'd
with
you
your
vote for?
I would agree with your analysis that you said last night on CBS Sports and what you said about
What'd I
Jeanty.
say?
You said he should win the award.
Oh, I can't remember what I said.
You got to be careful there. Fact or fiction? One of Arizona State or Boise State will make it to the semifinal.
Oh, that's fiction. Neither. Because I'm hoping Arizona State plays my Longhorns, so that means they beat Clemson, and then they'll beat Arizona State. But Cam Scatterboo, he's had a Heisman-worthy season as well. That's John Riggins 2.0. Being here in Washington, he is a heck of a running back, another transfer, and everything Denningham has done there, man. That's overcoming the sanctions, the probation, and he's got 60 new faces on that roster this season. And what, they won 6 straight ball games?
That's kind of the sport now.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's still not easy to do.
No, sure.
And if it was easy, everyone would see immediate success. Of course, he's done it over 2 seasons, only winning 3 games a year ago. But they've got a hell of a football team playing with a lot of confidence.
And then Penn State, SMU, you trust whoever survives there? I think it's going to be Penn State to beat Boise?
I'm going to take Penn State, but don't be surprised if SMU wins. They are a damn good football team. You turn on that tape, it's speed all over the place, and they ball out. Speed on defense, offense. This Jennings kid, for him to win. Preston Stone came in with all this hype. He's going to be the guy, and Jennings takes over, and that team doesn't skip a beat. They play ferocious defense. So I'm taking Penn State, but I'm not shocked if SMU wins.
And then wrapping up with Brian Jones here on behalf of USAA, Army, Navy, Radio Row, Belichick to UNC. Where do you lie on this?
Well, where the NIL lie? Where does that lie? Because everyone's wondering, I can't see Belichick going into someone's home. You don't have to see him.
No.
As long as that money bag shows up.
And Coach Prime hasn't done an in-house visit.
Thank you. It's a new game. And here's the deal. His selling point, you want to get to that NFL, much like Deion. You want to get there? Well, go to one of the best that's ever coached at that level, and he's going to teach you how to get there. Now, his personality may not scream, hey, I'm a college football coach, but that football acumen definitely does. And you're going to have some kids that want to learn from a man such as him.
All righty. Bring some gloves next time.
I left the gloves in my hotel room, dude.
So how
long
are
we gonna have a
how long were you outside for?
State the obvious conversation?
How long were you outside for?
For about 2 hours. We just had rehearsal.
I
came straight from rehearsal.
Well, why didn't you say so? I thought you were
You didn't ask me.
I just did, and you got annoyed at me for asking you.
Kick your ass on your radio show.
There he is, Brian Jones.
Do it again. I dare you.
What?
You know what? Do it. You better.
Horns up.
There you go.
You know what happens with horns up? They go down. They go down.
Hey, man, give me that shank.
Yeah.
Give me that shank.
Myself and Mike Biseglia will be hiding for years.
This is your last radio segment.
I'm going to get whacked. Brian Jones is going to turn into be Italian. He's going to whack me tonight. You're going to get rid of me. Not the way that you thought of it. I mean, like, I'm in the hotel room, then you're going to, like, a baseball bat whack me.
No. What do you mean the way I thought of it?
I know how I saw your eyes the way that they went
I
up.
was looking at something else. I wasn't even paying attention to you. Something much prettier walked by. I had forgotten you were even here.
Yeah. Good to see you.
You still here?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm saying goodbye to you.
Oh, bye.
I got to do a live read, so you can leave if you want. Good to see you. There he is, Brian Jones.
Who did the flag? What's her name?
Shaughnessy.
No. Soon the lady, original lady who sold it, Susan B. Anthony. Wasn't it Susan B. Anthony?
Betsy Ross.
Betsy Ross.
Yeah.
Who was Susan B. Anthony? What'd she do?
I don't know.
I get my white women mixed up.
Yeah.
Especially the ones in history.
Good to see you. We'll take a timeout. Zach Gelb Show here on the Infinity Sports Network. Back after these short messages. Football season is in full swing, and you can take full advantage by winning some cash with Sleeper Picks. Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less at least 2 of your favorite player stats, and if you're right, you could win. You can pick up to 8 players. Don't pick any of those Texas players if you want to suck up to Brian Jones. But you can pick up to 8 players, win up to 100 times your money. For a limited time, Sleeper's special offer. New users just have to play $5, and they'll receive $55 in free bonus entries. That's right. If you deposit $25 and play $5, they'll give you 11 $5 bonus entries to start playing. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE and get on this promo before time runs out. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and unlock one of the fastest growing fantasy sports apps in the world. Use code SCORE to claim the play $5, get $55 bonus entry offer. That's code SCORE. Must be at least 18 years old in most states and present in state where it is legal to wager. Promo code location, other restrictions apply. Minimum deposit $25. See terms of use for details at sleeper.com. Please play responsibly. Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All right, it's time. Onside, Offside. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network here, USAA, Army, Navy, Radio Row. EJ Manuel going to join us coming up in 15 minutes from now. But first, we go to Stu.
All right, Zach. So the Rams, as we talked about at the start of the show, they defeated the Niners 12-6 in a sloppy game last night to effectively end San Fran's season. Not only are last year's NFC champs now 6-8 and will almost certainly need to win out, we also had linebacker Devondre Campbell refusing to play midway through the game.
No, he gone. He cut.
He's gone. Onsides, offsides. This era of the 49ers has peaked, and they will fail to win a Super Bowl.
It's a good question because it's getting ugly now. Brandon Ayuk out for the season. McCaffrey out for the season. You know, I have a lot of sympathy for what Trent Williams is going through, but I take a look at this 49ers group. When you have this bad of a season, I think they could get back next year, but are you going to get back? Like, they could be a playoff team next year, but are you going to be able to be a Super Bowl contender? And inevitably, you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy, and depending on what the numbers are in that contract, that could really make a lot of guys that you had there for years lose their job. Like, I look at a Deebo Samuel, he's slowing down. You probably got to trade him at the end of the season. Like, someone's got to go. So I think they could retool and they could get back to the postseason. But in terms of winning a Super Bowl, I think that ship has sailed because there was such a mental hurdle to overcome anyway. When you're up by 10 twice, I know it's in Mahomes, I know it's the Chiefs, but you're up by 10 twice up against Kansas City and you don't win one, and now we're seeing this group bottom out. You could restore the ship a little bit, but is it ever going to sail as smoothly as it did in the past? And even then it needs to sail better? I'm going to say no. So this era of the 49ers has peaked and they will fail to win a Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm going to say onside on that one. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl.
So there could be a quarterback change in New Orleans on Sunday as Jake Haener is expected to start against the Commanders if Derek Carr can't go, as he is trying to overcome a concussion as well as a fracture to his non-throwing hand. It would be the fourth game missed for Carr this season, who has 2 years left on his contract after this season. So onsides, offsides, the Saints should move on from Carr after this season, even if they're not in a position to draft a quarterback.
I'm going to say offside to that because in the draft, it's not even a foregone conclusion that they're going to be able to get a quarterback. You know, I know they haven't won a lot of games, but I think they've already won enough games where it looks like the Giants and the Raiders are going to be those two teams that end up getting the quarterbacks. And I've said this for a while. If it is not Shedeur Sanders, if it's not Cam Ward, I'm not interested in picking you in the top 10 of this draft. So, you know me, I'm not a big fan of Carr. I don't think Carr should be a starting quarterback in this league. But when you look at it, he's still fine enough where he could put up good stats. But I don't feel confident if that is the guy perceived to be my franchise quarterback. But even if you do bring someone in, they're going to be ready to start away. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to have that veteran voice there, even though we've seen Carr with the Raiders, and I know that was a messy situation, but walk away from the team afterwards. But when you ask me the Saints should move on from Carr after the season, even if they're not in a position to draft a quarterback, I'm going to go offside just because of what the contract is.
Offside.
All right, the Dolphins have released wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. earlier today in what was described as a mutual parting of ways with 4 weeks ago in the season. Now, after signing a one-year deal with Miami this offseason, the now 32-year-old had just 9 catches for 55 yards and 0 touchdowns in, of course, limited action. Onsides, offsides, OBJ has played his last meaningful snap in the NFL.
Yeah, on sides. The last time we saw OBJ really be productive, I would say it was the Rams, right? He caught that touchdown in the Super Bowl and then unfortunately blew out his leg. You know, he had a few moments with the Ravens a year ago, but you look at the way that he was hyped up and the way that he played early on in his career, I thought we were seeing one of the greatest wide receivers of all time with the run that he had the first 3-4 years in the league. But then all the injuries started to pile up. It did not work out in Cleveland. Unfortunately, he could have been on his way to winning the Super Bowl MVP with the Rams, and then his knee gets hurt after catching that touchdown pass. And ever since then, it's just like, it's the old broken down car. Like, you loved it, you drove it for all those years, but you know you got to get a new car. I don't see why another team would bring in OBJ if they're trying to seriously win football games. The juice just isn't worth the squeeze anymore. So Odell Beckham Jr. played his last meaningful snap in the NFL. It felt that way like 2 years ago, so now it really feels that way onside.
So NCAA President Charlie Baker revealed this week that the NCAA basketball tournaments could be expanding to 72 or even 76 teams in the coming years. He said, quote, "I am bullish on the conversations we've had going from 72 or 76, and I think the committees are willing to consider that, but I don't think that it's going to be anything beyond that," end of quote. Onside, offsides, going to 72 or 76 teams would be a bad thing for the sport of college basketball.
Do we really need to expand them that much more? The way the I know they expanded it a few years ago by like 4 teams, but the way that the NC tournament has gone as of late, it's fine. I hate to keep on. I know they're going to say, oh, well, it's more access and we have so many programs. If you can't, I'd say the same thing about a 12-team format in the college football playoff. With how long the regular season is for college basketball, with how long the regular season is for college football, if you can't clearly make it known and obvious that you deserve to be in the college football playoff or the NCAA tournament after your season comes to a close, you don't deserve to be there. And I know we could make arguments, this resume versus that resume, but you either have to win your conference and get the bid in automatically, right, for college basketball, or you got to be one of those at-large bids. If you can't make that clear and obvious after an entire regular season, I'm not going to sit here and say that you got screwed. So going to 72 or 76 teams, I don't need to see it. Now, I could also argue in college basketball, a lot of people don't pay attention until March anyway. So it's just kind of March Madness now has become their season. So do you maybe want to showcase more teams? You can make that point, but I'm not going to do so. I think it'd be unnecessary because the system right now is perfect, and we've seen 16 beat 1s. We see 15s beat 2s. It's really good the way the tournament's working right now. So John Rossi, and I've seen him say this before, do whatever you can in your power to make sure that the NCAA tournament does not get expanded. We do not need expansion in the NCAA tournament, so going to 72 or 76 teams would be a bad thing for the sport of college basketball on sides.
All right, last one here. Despite some speculation online that Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers could return for his senior season and that Arch Manning could then transfer, Anwar Richardson of Yahoo Sports said that this is not the case, and Ewers is fully expected to head to the NFL. Of course, that would pave the way for a full season as Manning as a Longhorn starter. So onside to offsides, seeing Arch Manning play a full season is the thing that you're most excited for in college football next season.
It's a great question.
Probably Belichick might surpass that at this point.
No, because Belichick's he's not playing on the field. Bryce Underwood at Michigan should be fun. Seeing how Deion Sanders coaches without Shador and Travis Hunter could be of interest as well. Yeah, I don't think with the Manning name, I don't think there's anything that could top on the field seeing Arch Manning next year. So I would say, yeah, Arch Manning playing a full season is a thing that I'm most excited about for next college football season. That would be on sides. Now, I'll give you an early Heisman pick for next year because I've been thinking about this as well. I try to be a year in advance of these things, and I usually make fun of it when people end up giving predictions right after something happens. Whenever we have the NCAA tournament end and then John Fanta gives you his top 25 right after for the next season, I do find that funny. But if I had to say right now, your guy, Stu, Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame, had a really good season last year. He has the confidence. He has the brand. Notre Dame, they have a shoo-in to make the college football playoff as long as they only lose 1 or 2 games a year. I could see Jeremiah Love next year ended up being a guy that's a finalist in New York City for the Heisman Trophy. That would be my first thought.
That would excite me a lot, and he's going to have to carry the load next year with Riley Leonard leaving, graduating. Yeah. They're probably going to go to the freshman C.J. Carr, so we'll see what happens. Another car in my life. Go figure.
Jeez. Hopefully this car drives a little bit better for you.
I hope so.
I just hope so, because still you have a lot of miserable football teams. You have a lot of bad sports teams. I know the Lakers used to be great, but they're not anymore. The Raiders, just a disaster. Your Yankees now are a pathetic joke. There's just a lot of teams that, man, you root for, and they're just terrible. I have that ability. I work with producers that just root for these horrible teams. All righty, we'll take a timeout. When we come on back, EJ Manuel's going to join us. Should Notre Dame join a conference? We'll get into that next from USAA, Army, Navy, Radio Row. Update time. Let's send it back to New York City. Here is El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network, Sports Flash.
Well, Zach, for high-quality, high-performance golf clubs, apparel that delivers style and comfort, premium golf balls, award-winning gloves, and more, make it a PXG holiday for the golfer in your life. Find the PXG store near you at pxg.com. Chiefs might be getting a huge weapon for Patrick Mahomes as Hollywood Brown returned to practice for the first time since surgery in August. There's now a 3-week window in order to activate Brown from IR. Chiefs sitting at 12-1, looking to grab the 1 seed again, but also about to embark on 3 games in 11 days, culminating on Christmas against the Steelers. Writing was on the wall quickly for Devondre Campbell after he declined to enter the Rams game in the third quarter.
If you're on the roster, and you suit up, you're expected to play. I think anyone in this building that got asked to go in, I would say 100% of everybody would die to get on that football field.
Now is George Kittle. 49ers will part with Campbell, but still unclear if it'll be a suspension without pay or just releasing him. Dolphins, they released Odell Beckham Jr., said goodbye to the former Pro Bowler, was said to be a mutual parting. Baseball, Cubs, a big move, reportedly getting Kyle Tucker from the Astros in exchange for Isak Paredes, Cam Smith, Hayden Wisniewski. Yankees reportedly getting Brewers closer Devin Williams in exchange for Caleb Durbin and Nestor Cortez. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X and like us on Facebook. Our handle is at INF Sportsnet on X and INF Sportsnet for Facebook.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
Kid, this is USAA Army Navy Radio Row. It's the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. And now joining us is a great job in the ACC Network, and that is former Florida State quarterback EJ Manuel. EJ, how you been?
I'm doing good, Zach. How are you? I love the suit, by the way. I said Mr. America. I think you've gotten Uncle Sam. You got any other nicknames with the suit? Or?
I think that's it. You
okay.
know,
Star Spangled Banner or something like that. But no, you look good, man.
I'll tell you, I don't think I'll have to pay for a drink tonight. Everyone's going to be like, let's get this guy liquored up tonight.
No question. No question.
Let me start you off with quarterback play in college, because it's been clear, I think, all throughout the year in terms of the NFL draft that Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are the two best quarterbacks when it comes to guys that are draft eligible next year. If you were the Giants or the Raiders, and let's say you had the number one overall pick, whoever that may be, who do you go with? Who do you think's the better quarterback?
That's tough. So as far as who's the better quarterback, and again, I still look at this from the lens of they're college players. So I try to pay attention to what skill sets would carry over the quickest in the NFL. And when we had this same type of conversation around that draft class last year, I thought it was Jaden Daniels. I think Cam Ward and Shedeur both have Jaden Daniel-esque kind of play, maybe not the athleticism, the ability to run. But when I watch Shedeur, a lot of the ways that he processes information, his accuracy, his timing, anticipation, he has that. And Cam Ward does too. I mean, there's a reason why Miami won, 10 games on the season. And it's unfortunate that they got cut short losing to Syracuse. And that's also a really good football team in ACC.
Fran Brown.
Yeah, with Fran Brown. But I'd say it's 1A, 1B. And I said that same thing about Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels last year. And so I think they both possess a lot of talents, and they're both going to be NFL quarterbacks, and going to be good.
You know, it's a funny process, because I remember when I was talking to Jaden at the Heisman, Pat McAfee and Herb Street, they were both saying, this guy's getting slept on way too much. I'm like, hold on, he's about to win the Heisman. Right. But for the draft, people weren't saying, top 5 right away. And that was just in December. And then you see in April, he's a second overall pick. And there's narratives that happen.
Right.
Like, they're generational guys. And Caleb Williams was a generational guy. And then as we got close to the draft, I go, I can't say that Jaden is better than Caleb and should go 1, but I started to fall in love with Jaden the most. And it's funny, when that guy is tabbed the guy, we all get stubborn and we don't like to change, even though we've seen some other things.
So I don't base who goes in draft order as he's better than this player. I think that really is about what team picks and who they want. You know, so if a team that took Caleb Williams number 1 in Chicago, they just wanted Caleb. I don't think that necessarily means that, you know, Jaden is not as good as Caleb or vice versa, because it's all about a draft order. Like, you might have a player who may go 9th, but he might have been the best player on that team's draft board, and they just happen to pick 9th. So if they had that pick at 1, they might have taken him at 1. That's how I see it. But look, I mean, you're kind of nitpicking when we get into who's better, who's this, who's that. I think it's more about who has the best situation around them. And I certainly felt like Jaden Daniels played so much in college football that he got all the reps that were needed to work out some of the kinks of understanding blitzes and knowing where to go with a certain blitz. And again, his natural ability to take off and run, I knew was going to be something that helped him in the rookie year because you're not going to know everything. You're not going to know every pressure. You're not going to know every defensive coverage that's being thrown at you. So when you have that in your back pocket, that helps your confidence go even higher to know you can get yourself out of trouble.
I've been saying this since May that I thought that Shador was going to find the way to the Raiders. I feel like Coach Prime is going to force that. Yeah. And then I'm going to say Cam Ward goes to the Giants. That's what I'm saying right now.
I also saw Shador saying he wants to take the New York subway. So, hey, I mean.
As someone that lives in New York, Shador, you have enough money. You can avoid the New York subway.
Hey, look, I got money and I still take the subway. So I don't mind the subway. I kind of like it. It's part of going to New York. It's like when you go to New York, you have a slice of pizza. To me, like I don't mind the subway. So.
Sure. I would say that's the biggest thing post-pandemic. Yeah. The subway, that's where all the crazies
are. No, I've been lucky though. I haven't had any I haven't had any crazy occurrences. Now, one of those times happened, it'll probably spoil it for me. But literally, my wife and I were there maybe 3 weeks ago for our neighbor Devon Godchild. He had a birthday party up there. And we went to the city after I finished my ACC network stuff, and we took the subway like twice, just to say we did it.
So Devon Godchild's a pretty big dude.
Yeah, you know? He is, no question. You weren't with us. Devon didn't do it. Me and my wife did it.
But that's a rite of passage.
I will add this. That's a cool part of being now a former player. Like I blend in. I think you know what I'm saying.
No, you don't.
But I do though, because some people might recognize me, like, but they don't bother me in a way. You know what I'm saying? So they keep walking, and especially playing for the Bills. You know, I'll see people in New York City, but it's all love at this point.
You know what? Next time you come to the city, I'll show you the crazies in the subway.
And the Uber's going to be on you.
Oh, yeah. There goes my salary for the year. DJ Manuel here with us. Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
We got Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty. I know Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel also finalists. I think those guys one of them's going to finish in third. You think it's going to be Jeanty 1 and Travis 2 or vice versa?
You know what? I think Travis has it locked up. When you look at the ability to play at a high level on offense and defense. And we have Jimbo Fisher. I'm talking Jacob Hester is our co-host on Off Campus.
Sure.
Channel 84, Sirius XM, selfless plug.
I used to work with Jacob.
All right, cool.
We did a Heisman together when Joe Burrow won it all.
Jimbo Fisher joins us on Tuesday as our former coach. And he made a good point about the ability to retain all that information. If you think about a game plan on offense, you got, 60, 70 plays that you'll probably run? And I'm talking about actual plays. Maybe there's some that repeat, but at least like 100 plus going to a game plan. Same on defense. So that part, beside the athletic ability to make interceptions and make big catches and put touchdowns, how about his mental acumen to be able to understand game plans on offense and on defense? That, to me, is why, one, he's going to probably go first in the draft, talking about these other quarterbacks. But then the other part, why he should win the Heisman Trophy.
So I want to ask you about Mike Norvell. So I've been a big fan of Mike Norvell since he was at Memphis. I went to Temple, so little American Athletic Conference roots right there. When he first got to Florida State, you know how it is. He's a savior. And after a few years, everyone's like, why the heck is he the coach? Yep. Then he had the season that he had last year. Everyone's all on board. And this year was just an unmitigated disaster. Can he win back over the Florida State fans? Can you think he could have a year like he did last year, not the one that happened this year again?
Absolutely. But the other key part about that is, like you said, he got to win. And Coach Norvell understands that. He understands what the expectation is at Florida State. And it's to win games and also win championships. You know, that year where 2023, Florida State won the ACC, undefeated 13-0, got left out of the playoff. We won't go down that hole. But that's the expectation of the fan base. Now, you may not win every single game, but it's also about how you lose. And so it hurt my soul to see us only win, I'm talking about Florida State, to win 2 games. And I believe, one ACC game, if I'm not mistaken, 1 win in ACC play. And I just didn't see it coming. And honestly, when I said it out loud, I still don't believe it, Zach. Like, FSU goes 2-10. But that can't happen ever again. And I don't think it's good for college football either. Of course, you got to earn what you get, but college football needs the Miamis, the FSUs, the Clemsons in the ACC specifically to be good. And yeah, really unfortunate year.
And let's be real. DJ Uiagalelei was always overrated. I think we were trying to figure out, was it Dabo? Was it DJ? I think it was a mixture of both why it didn't work out. But to see how far he fell this year, even if you thought he was overrated, no one could have seen that.
You know what? So as far as the overrated, underrated stuff, again, I don't get into that. And look, I played the position, so I know how hard it can be. But yeah, I mean, there were some moments where I was like, can't miss those throws. Or moments where it's like, hand the ball off. You know what I mean? Like it was just some decisions that DJ ultimately made. And I'll be curious to see what happens with him because he technically has another year at FSU. And I saw they had just signed or got a commitment from Thomas Castellanos from Boston College. Gus Malzahn now there as offensive coordinator. Probably fits the style of TC a little bit more than DJU.
Yeah.
But
you got Tony White and Pot Roast now, too.
Here's the other part that really is unfortunate. DJU is like the nicest guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you talk to him like this on the radio or just hang out with him and it's chill. Like he's super personable, really nice kid, and you want success for him. But unfortunately, at Florida State specifically this year, didn't happen.
When you look at Belichick going to UNC, I just had RG3 on, and he was saying the ceiling for Belichick is to win a national championship. And I'm like,
nah, come on, RG3, what?
It's to win an ACC championship.
Let's start
because,
reasonably.
like, hey, no disrespect to Clemson, no disrespect to SMU. They're 2 ACC teams in the playoff this year. I don't see how they're going to win a national championship this year. So,
well, we'll see about that. But as far as Coach Belichick, I don't say the expectation should be like national championship. Look, he doesn't have Tom Brady. I mean, like Coach Belichick's an excellent coach. He's a 6-time Super Bowl winning coach, but he also had Hall of Famers on those football teams and guys who he developed. And that's the key term that I got from his press conference yesterday. He talked about development, and he didn't even set expectations of, hey, I'm going to bring this. I'm going to win ACC. Hey, we're going to go to the drawing board. We're going to build this roster. We're going to build this football team. That's an honest, realistic
take it
answer.
day by day. All right,
EJ. But see, again, when you play the game, that's exactly the truth. Like, I can't come in and expect all of a sudden to turn around a team that just went 6-6 and take them to the national championship. Now, you go into the portal or you recruit some high school kids, maybe that can turn around. It happened for Florida State with Coach Norvell. So it's possible. But to say that should be the expectation, and I get what RG3 is saying, the ceiling for every team. But for me, I'm excited Coach Belichick's in the ACC. One, I think it brings validity to the conference because most people are like, why didn't you go SEC or why didn't you go Big Ten? ACC football is good too, guys. They got good players as well, okay? Everybody relax. ACC is good. But the other part, I think is great for the young men that are going to get recruited there because you are genuinely going to get prepared for the NFL. Now, whether you make it or not, that's up to you as far as talent. But ultimately, as far as the preparation, Coach Belichick can get you right.
The transfer portal, since we keep on talking about it, I'm pro NIL, I'm pro transfer portal. It'd be nice if there was like some more rules
You're
there.
pro America too.
Yes, I am, of course. Anything for more people to get money. Just make sure you give me a cut and I'll be okay with it. But when I look at the transfer portal, I kind of equate it to me playing blackjack.
Okay.
Where there's times where I could be Florida State and I'm hot and I look like I'm walking out of the casino with the big bag of cash. But then you're going to lose that money quick. And if you build your entire program off the transfer portal, you're going to be walking out of the casino with no money.
Fair enough. I think with the transfer portal, it's great for players to have that opportunity to see what else is out there. But for coaches to try to build their roster, look, every situation is different because everybody laughed at Deion Sanders when he got the head coaching job at Colorado, brought a lot of his kids, the Louis luggage and all that, obviously imagery, but brought a lot of his players from Jackson State to Colorado. They're going to a bowl game, and they almost made it to a CFP. So who's laughing now? His son's going to probably be a top 5 pick. Travis Hunter's probably going to be the #1 overall pick. So I think there's ways to do it, but you're right. It is somewhat of a crapshoot or a blackjack game. But in football anyways, like in recruiting, in draft anyways, like nobody truly knows who's going to be a for sure success. It's football. That's why it's a game. And so I think that's the exciting part about the transfer portal. Give the guys the opportunity, and ultimately it's up to them. Make the most of it.
Yeah, I'm also a crappy blackjack player because I get bored. So, like, if you're playing for an hour,
you can't play blackjack, you get bored.
And you're only up by 100, it's like I just put all this time for 100. Let me just throw all the 100 in the middle of the table, and the dealer gets 21.
This is why you don't want to ride the subway because you're wasting all your money in the blackjack table, man. Come on, bro. You can be using that money on Ubers and taxis, man.
I don't know. The Ubers in New York are crazy.
I know I'm going on a limb here, but like, I love the city bikes in New York City as long as it's over 65 degrees. Now they got the city bikes where it's like electric. And so I was there maybe 2 times ago when I was in doing Seaport ESPN Get Up. And I had the evening before, I got on one of the bikes. I was expecting it to be like the normal blue city bike. It was a green one.
Different.
That thing took off, man. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like
you got to be careful, man, though.
Yeah, I was. Trust me.
Because those cars, they don't care that you're on a bike.
I stay in the lanes, or I try to hit like the West Side Highway. I used to have a place in the city on 42nd and 11th when I was in the league. So I know it pretty well. I love New York.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Does Notre Dame need to join a conference full-time ACC?
Yes. Yeah, man. They do. I understand the business part of why they don't. But I would love if they joined the ACC. Again, it would add more validity, similar to what I said about Coach Belichick. But also, it levels the playing ground because technically, if you think about it, Notre Dame gets their own spot in the playoff. It's either they get it or they don't. It's almost similar to a G5 team. If they'd have lost one more game, they wouldn't have gotten a spot. And that would have gave another Power 4 team an opportunity. So I hope that they at some point join either the ACC or a conference to play that conference championship like everybody else has to.
Last thing I'll ask you. How does Clemson and how does SMU win their first round matchups?
Got you. So for Clemson, handle the situation. I think defensively, you have to get pressure on Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is 48% completing the ball under pressure. But funny enough, he's 64% versus the blitz. The difference is pressure is 4 guys rushing, and then blitz is obviously bring linebackers and exterior guys. For SMU, handle the moment. I think you have 36,000 fans in their stadium in Dallas. Well, now you're about to go 106,000 in Happy Valley. It's going to be cold. So that's why I say handle the environment. But SMU's going to shock a lot of people. And Rhett Lashter, their head coach, one of the best play callers in all of college football.
He's EJ Manuel, of course, does a great job, ACC Network. You listen to him on Sirius XM, just like you hear this show as well. And he's here today on behalf of USA Army Navy Radio Row. EJ, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Appreciate it.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by Sleeper. Just download the Sleeper app today and use code SCORE when signing up. Must be present in certain states. Visit sleeper.com for details. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product. So we ended that conversation with EJ Manuel live from USAA Army Navy Radio Row, and it was talking about those two schools from the ACC in Clemson and SMU that are in the college football playoff. And if you look at the road for Clemson and also SMU to win the game, it's just at halftime, be in it, like with a touchdown or less. Because all the pressure between Clemson and Texas is on Texas. All the pressure between SMU and Penn State is on Penn State. And I look at Penn State, there's a conversation about them that they can't win the big game. And James Franklin wins a lot of games, but not the big games. Like, we're patting him on the head, James Franklin, for only losing by 8 points to Oregon in a Big Ten championship game. You know, the praise that I've seen of James Franklin after keeping it within 8 points in a Big Ten championship game, and it felt like that game was, for most of it, was by 14 points, and they scored the touchdown at the end, and obviously, right, with the whole 2-point conversion situation, how that did play on out. It's amazing some of the overpraising that has been done to Penn State when they still lost a Big Ten championship game. So I would say for SMU and Clemson, you just got to be within a touchdown at halftime, and then all the pressure goes to Sark and all the pressure goes to James Franklin. And I look at SMU, I could see the stage being too big for them. For Penn State, 108,000 screaming fans going nuts. And also you have SMU going into the cold of Happy Valley. I'm not saying Texas. I haven't thought on who's going to win that game yet in terms of making the final prediction. But Texas, even though they are an incredibly well-rounded team, their best win this year is A&M. And Dabo Swinney, say what you want, how much we have clowned him really the last few years, Dabo Swinney is a multiple-time national championship winning coach. Like, I don't think the stage, Clemson may not be good enough to beat Texas. They got smacked by Georgia earlier this year, and Texas played one really close game up against Georgia, and the second one they got into it in the second half, which was the first time. But I don't think the stage for Clemson and Dabo is going to be the reason why they lose. So I still look at that, the road after that, whoever gets through, and I do think it's going to be Texas right now, and I would say it's going to be Penn State, and don't hold me to that prediction, but I'm still looking at Arizona State and Boise State. And I'm not saying both are going to get to the semifinal, but I do think one of those teams are going to get to the semifinal. We'll take a break. Zach Gelb Show right here live on Radio Row, USAA Army Navy Radio Row. When we come on back, Ron Rivera is going to join us.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show inside USAA's Army-Navy Radio Row. And now joining us is, of course, one of our favorites, but I enjoy this guy a lot. Nobody enjoys him more than our update anchor, and that is Rich Ackerman, who worked with this guy for many, many years. And he, of course, is Ron Rivera, kind enough to join us right now. I had to mention Ack, because if I don't mention Ack, they'll never talk about to me in the office ever again.
Well, I promise you, Zach, as soon as I get off this, I bet I get a text from him, too.
Yeah. And also for your birthday, too. Ack is always, anytime you're close on the birthday, he gets it.
Ack's a good dude. You know, we worked together when I was in Chicago, kind of in between my playing career and my coaching career, and became friends. And you know, him coming in from New York to Chicago, he didn't know a lot of folks, so we had him over for Thanksgiving dinner, and you know, really got to know him even better.
Ron Rivera here with us. So there's a lot to get to in the NFL landscape. Let me start you off with the Bears, because I know they're near and dear, close to your heart. This year, you know, they ended up bringing back Matt Eberflus. It didn't work. Now we'll see who they end up hiring as their next head football coach. They have the quarterback. The quarterback still got to grow, but there's just that stench still around the organization. Will they ever be able to get it right?
I believe they'll get it right. I really do, just because the circumstance they're in. I think what they've done there is they've put together the assets that you need around a young quarterback. First of all, look at the defense. You've got a good, solid defense. They perform well. They have the ability to perform well. And if you get a quarterback that can manage games, which he did do at some point, you saw how well it impacts the defense. It really does. Secondly, you have enough playmakers around him. Okay, you've got a good receiving core. You got a good young tight end that's still playing well. Your running game is on the verge of being really good. Now you got to protect them. If there is, I think, something that needs to be worked on and massaged a little bit is the offensive line. I think the offensive line can play better. I think you have talent there, but you may have to add some more, because when I was in Carolina, one of the first rules we had was identify your franchise quarterback. Okay. We didn't have one. So we said we got to go get one. Now we go get one, you've got to protect him, and you got to put playmakers around him, and then you got to support him with the defense. And those were the things that we believe we had to do, and that's what we went about in doing. The next year we draft Luke Kuechly, and next thing you know, we're off to the races.
When you look at the Panthers now, when they benched Bryce Young, I thought that was it for him. And then he came back, and man, we've seen a different Bryce Young, where I don't think they're taking a quarterback in the draft this year, and he's their guy next year.
I don't think they need to. I think what happened was brilliant, and I went through the same thing when I was here in Washington my first year. We had a young man in Dwayne Haskins, and we started off with Dwayne. Things weren't going the direction they needed to be. He wasn't playing, the way I believe he was capable of. So I benched him and went with the veterans. And what happened was you do two things. One is you got to make sure you put your arm around the young guy and say, look, this isn't the end of it. How you handle this, to what you learn from this is what's going to make or break you, okay? And I know Dave Canales did that, and he did that with Bryce, okay? The thing that I appreciated was the way Bryce handled it. Bryce was attentive. He was supportive. He was willing to learn and grow. He didn't take this as I'm getting slapped down, this is BS. No, he was a teammate that helped. He was what was best at the time for the team. Andy Dalton, credit to him, he mentored the kid. He helped the kid. So because Bryce did what he did, everybody said, okay, he's working at it. Then what you do as the head coach, you tell these guys, the other 50, hey, we can win, let's go. Well, that's what I went through, and Dave went through the same thing. And what happened was, because Bryce did the things you needed to do, when Dalton got hurt in that car accident, he had to play. And he played well, and his teammates recognized it. And next thing you know, everybody's starting to rally around the kid. Credit to Dave Canales. He started changing the way he was approaching the game and the plays that he was calling, and that really helped Bryce's development. Now all of a sudden you got a young man that people are saying, hey, you know what, this may be the future.
So when we go through all your stops, we know that we're here in D.C. We talk about the Commanders. I don't think you are like this way, but I have to ask it. Are there conflicting emotions because this was your team and now you're seeing them succeed to a really high level?
No, for me, there's some gratification too, because I do know, dealing with what I dealt with for the last 4 years, the whole idea was to put this team in position, and that's where this team is now. Credit to what's gone on with Coach Quinn coming in, doing the things that he's done. The draft pick they made I thought was really good in Jane Daniels. I love what Cliff Kingsbury's doing with him and how he's using him. One of the things that I did, now that I was involved with the NFL Network, is I started tracking the play of the young quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I included Bryce in that too on some of the things that I worked on. And a lot of things that you were seeing being done here were the things that you have to do with these young quarterbacks. Quick throws, get the ball out of his hands. Two reasons. Quick throws tells you got to make quick decisions, get the ball out of your hands, decrease the opportunity to be sacked. Okay? Well, you saw that Bryce was the other way. He was holding the ball too long, getting himself hit. Well, then what happens is when he comes back out, what do I see? Quick throws, getting the ball out of his hands, doing those types of things. Second thing, running game. Good running game is very important to a young quarterback, right? Now all of a sudden I start charting that, and I'm looking at it. I look at Jane Daniels. Plays off of play action were big numbers, good numbers. All of a sudden Bryce's numbers off of play actions, they started jumping. So there's a formula there with young quarterbacks, and that is you got to have a good running game. Why? Because a good running game helps increase the credibility of your play action. So there was a lot of positive things that have been happening for those kids. Well, you look at what they're doing in Washington with the Commanders, and again, credit to what Cliff Kingsbury doing with the offense, credit to what Dan Quinn has done with the team.
And I'll look at these young quarterbacks around the league, guys that are year one or year two in. I know it may not look so pretty from a statistical standpoint and a winning standpoint, but a guy like Drake May, you got a young coaching staff, new coaching staff coming in. You also have really, I could say this as a Patriot fan, one of the worst offensive lines in the league and no number one wide receiver. And that's what a franchise quarterback does, is he does more with less, and that's what you're seeing.
That's exactly what you're seeing. And what you want to do is, what you really want to see is you want to see things that quarterbacks that are franchise quarterbacks, they elevate the play of the people around them, and they elevate the play of the other side of the ball. Okay? And they do that because when you are playing good football and you're running the football and you're chewing up the clock and you're managing the game, not turning the ball over, you're keeping your defense off the field, you're keeping them fresh. And you see that from teams that do that and do it very well, like the Eagles. They're one of those teams that when you watch, when that offense is clicking, that defense is rested and they're coming out and they're taking the ball away and putting the offense right back on the field.
You had to deal with a lot with the Commanders. We don't really need to go into detail with it. I thought a lot of times you had to answer for the owner, but you know what it's like to be in a difficult situation when there's a lot of controversy. I'm not comparing this directly, but you look at the Eagles right now. You have a week where Brandon Graham, who's out for the year, starts off the week talking about how the relationship isn't good with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts anymore. They've had to respond about this all through the week. We just saw in Philly last year, they were 10-1, and then down the stretch they were miserable. There was problems in their locker room. They have talent to go win the Super Bowl this year. As a coach, when there is, I don't want to say outside noise because it's created from the inside, but when there's noise like that and negative attention, how do you kind of nip it in the bud and move on so it doesn't derail a season?
Well, I think one of the things you got to do first of all is you got to address it, especially if it's coming from with inside.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal opinion. Is that's something I think you address is something that you get taken care of right away. Because the thing you got to understand is we want to focus on what's important, not what's interesting. Okay. And what's happening is they're making something that's interesting important. But if it is coming from inside, and it truly is, and if that's the issue, it is important. It needs to be nipped right now. And I think that's something that should be addressed and addressed internally and really pushed to be kept internal, because that's our business. That's nobody else's business.
What was your reaction the other day when you saw the news? We knew that Belichick interviewed for the UNC job, but then when he got it.
Well, it's funny because I thought that, that's brilliant, because I don't know if you've seen, but you've seen that conversation with these billionaires talking about buying college football teams. Yeah. Well, what's happening is there may be this influx of money coming in all of a sudden. And think about this, and Coach Belichick may be ahead of the curve right now. But think about, you get this influx of money, you're creating a springboard for these players to get into the NFL. And if you get enough of these billionaires, let's say you get 32 of them, and all of a sudden you got 32 billionaires, 32 NFL teams. Maybe we got a mini NFL coming up. Maybe you have 2 conferences, 4 divisions in each conference, and now you have a feeder system. This potential could be what could be happening. And football, to me, football should be its own entity in college sports. And the other groups should go back to their regular conferences.
Yeah, because that's all the money is. All these schools, they chase the money, and I don't blame them for doing so.
But they're only really chasing the money for football.
Yes.
And maybe basketball.
In some select places,
But leave the Olympic sports, the other sports, to compete regionally instead of having to travel across the country to play and spend all that money.
Well, I'll ask you this. You were established, right? You had a lot of good days as an NFL head coach. If one of these colleges called you up, would you be interested?
I think I would. I think the thing that I have to do is really look at the circumstances, situation, and the commitment. I promise you, Coach Belichick, that was one of the things he was probably going through in the discussions is, hey, I need commitment. Just because I'm showing up doesn't mean we're instant winners. If I'm showing up, I need commitment from all you folks to come in. That's what will make us the winner, is if we come together and do this together. I promise you, this one thing he's not going to accept is, if you're not going to commit to me, why would I commit to you? So you have to have commitment to do something at this scale, at that large. There has to be commitment from a lot of folks.
Do you feel like you've coached your last down as a head coach in the league?
No. What's been interesting is I've got this 10,000-foot view. I'm looking down at the game now in terms of looking and seeing, and I'm noticing things, and I'm looking at things, and I see people doing things that I've done. And I said, wow, that's how I used to do it. And man, look at the success they're having. So what I am doing is right. Or wow, you know what, that's another way to do it. I like that idea. I like the way they're doing those things. So I'm kind of getting a chance to evaluate myself, evaluate the things that I've done, and kind of think about some of the things I would do differently and how I would do them.
So if someone asks you, why is Ron Rivera going to be a head coach again in this league? Like, what would that differently kind of look like?
I think it would look a lot like some of the things that I've done and some of the things I'm going to change. I really do. I think I've learned enough now to understand what it takes. Last 4 years, or actually last 3 years, I did more managing of situations, circumstances than I did coaching a team.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted, really.
And you didn't have a quarterback.
I know. And it's, it's funny. I said that. Somebody asked me, what's the difference between your team and these teams? And I said, well, quarterback. And they kind of, I said, no, it's true. This is a quarterback-driven league. If you have a quarterback, you have a chance. It doesn't matter where he is in his stage of his career, as long as he is a serviceable guy that can manage and control and make plays when he needs to, you got a chance. In this league, you do. But if your quarterback is okay, is not as serviceable, it's hard sledding.
If you don't get the call to be a head coach this year, would a coordinator still interest you or no?
Yeah, the right situation. Again, there's a lot of things that I can contribute. You get a really young first-time head coach, I promise you he's going to make a million mistakes.
Yeah.
And he's not going to know how to handle those mistakes unless he has somebody that's been through it there to help mentor him through it. Leslie Frazier's doing that in Seattle as the assistant head coach there, and he's helping Mike McDonald through these things and look at where they are as a team.
Last thing I'll ask you, just because I don't know your relationships and all of them, but a guy like Ben Johnson, right? It's my favorite part of football right now is watching his offense because it's just so fun to watch, and it's like, wow, I wish that was my team right now. But there's been a lot of times, right, more times that it hasn't gone the right way than it does, where that young, hotshot offensive or defensive coordinator, when they become a head coach, they're just not what they were as a coordinator. What do you hear about Ben, and why do you believe that maybe he could be a great head coach?
I think he can be a really good head coach because of his creativity. The things that he'd have to learn, obviously, is you're now in control of the whole room. Okay, you and this is one of the hard things for these young guys is that they want to be the primary play caller too. So you've got to manage 53 players. You've got to manage 16 on your practice squad. You've got to manage the injured guys. You've got to manage every facet of football operations. You've got to manage the coaches as well, and then game plan and prepare for the next opponent. And so there's a lot. There really is. And there's not a lot of Andy Reid's. There's not a lot of Bill Belichick's out there. Not a lot of guys that do that and do it very, very well.
So I know you've worked with USAA for many years. I remember talking to you for years at the Super Bowl. But kind of tell me just what this game means to you, Army-Navy.
Well, it means a lot for me because I grew up in a military family. And one of the great escapes you always had in the military, from what I understand, has always been sports. Sports has been something that draws people together. It bonds them together and also reminds them of home. It's really neat to have soldiers that when they come back or they come watch practice, boy, I really appreciate you guys playing on Sundays, man, because, when we were, over in the Middle East, and this was our great escape. This was really cool. Well, for us, as kids that grew up in the military, sports really was our avenue. So watching the Army-Navy game was a big deal for us. And, my dad was in the Army for 32 years, so I'm cheering Army, go Army. And I really do appreciate USAA being involved because, USAA's salute to service with the NFL has been a really cool thing. One of my dad's proudest moments for me personally was when I won the USAA Service Award. And that was a really big deal. He helped present it to me, and it's, it was a big thrill.
Well, Coach, always great to catch up to you. Good health, and appreciate you doing this.
Zach,
Thanks so much.
Appreciate you. Thanks for the time.
There you go. He's Ron Rivera. We'll take a timeout. We're coming on back. USAA, Army-Navy Radio Row. It is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
I'm going to read you a story that I just read during the break. I don't know if it's true. I'm just going to say that. You see a lot of things online these days, and you go, is it true? But, you know, there's a lot of aggregators there. ML Football, I still think, is a good aggregator. Also, that JPA site, even though they sometimes, when they credit me, they tag some other Zach Gelb on Twitter, which then that guy is, I think he lives in England, and he's messaged me before, and he goes, I love that I get all the credit whenever you guys have a story. Dove Kleiman, it's not even Dove Kleiman anymore. I've actually, the real Dove Kleiman, or who I think is the real Dove Kleiman, he has messaged me before because he used to use a lot of our stories, and then I guess from the story, the way I understand it, is that he sold his Twitter account, and whoever runs the Dove Kleiman account now, no one cares about your opinions, all right? Like, you post these stories and you're like, oh, offensive, or oh, I can't believe it. And then you post something and it doesn't match up to the, oh, it's offensive, or oh, I can't believe it. But I do like I can't say I know him well, but whoever runs the ML football account, I do usually think they don't post things that aren't true, even though it's all about engagement and all that with these aggregators. So here's what I read during the break, Stu, and I got to get your reaction on this because you are a Raider fan, and unfortunately it's just incompetent decision after incompetent decision. And would it surprise you, let me just say this, the Raiders, it's not a Raiders story, but if the Raiders would have hired a coach that another team was about to fire, like as a coordinator, before you ended up hiring him as the coach.
That sounds very Raiders, yes.
Okay. This was the story from ML Football that I just read via the Chicago Tribune. The Colts plans on firing Matt Eberflus before the Bears decided to hire him as their head coach. Eberflus was not good enough to be a coordinator in Indy and would have become a position coach. Instead, Chicago made him their head coach. Now, I read this story or I see this tweet, and it says it's from the Chicago Tribune. And I ask a question. Do you believe it? Because sometimes there's stories out there that aren't true. But when I read you that the Colts plans on firing Matt Eberflus before the Bears decided to hire him as their head coach, Eberflus was not a good enough coordinator in Indy and would have become a position coach. Instead, Chicago made him their head coach. That's from the Chicago Tribune via ML Football. Do you believe that story when you first hear it?
I would say no. I'm leaning no. I could see either side, but I would lean no.
So here's why I lean yes. Now, I knew who Matt Eberflus was, but I think most football fans, when Matt Eberflus, or as I like to call him, Matt Eberflus, was hired, they were like, who the heck is that? And Matt Eberflus, I said this the day the Colts hired him. I go, he was an okay coordinator in Indianapolis, but if you would have said that Matt Eberflus would have got an NFL head coaching job in that cycle, I would have said no way. Like, no chance. So the Bears are a cheap organization. The Bears are someone that you could put a great football coach in front of them, and they wouldn't get it right. Like, they wouldn't make the right hire. Like, I love Ron Rivera, who just joined us. And I understand why he's going to speak positively about the Chicago Bears. But if you tell me, and I think the Bears job is the best job on the market, right? You got the Bears, you got the Jets, you got the Saints that are open. I do think Jacksonville will open. I still think the Giants and the Cowboys aren't going to open. And there's a few others that may open up as well. But when I look at the Bears, I go, that's the best job on the market in terms of the roster. Right? The Jets, they have a good young roster. Guys like Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, even though he's had a bad season, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. There's some names on that team, but they don't have a quarterback. When I look at the Bears, their roster pound for pound may not be better than the Jets, but it's still a solid roster. It's still a roster that it should be a playoff team when you look at it just from the talent heading into this season. But with that being said, they have someone that I think is their quarterback and someone that I believe can be a really good quarterback. So I sit back from an aerial view and I go, if you said to me, do you fully believe that the Bears are going to get this right? I can't say yes just because the McCaskey family continuously gets it wrong over and over and over again. And you look at Chicago, that is, in terms of talent and who the quarterback can be, that's the premier job that is available right now, and I expect to be available and open whenever we have Black Monday and we see all the coaches that get fired after the playoffs happen and we figure out, are there any coaches that made the postseason that end up getting the pink slip? And for that job, Belichick's already out. I know his buyout goes from $10 million to $1 million on June of 2025, but he's going to be coaching at UNC this upcoming year. Don't expect him to write on a piece of paper, BB resigns as HC of UNC. I don't think that's going to happen. However, you then look at the next two guys. Coaching Chicago next year, if they want me to believe that this is going to work and this is going to be different, if they want Zach Gelb to be singing their praises on a national radio show and say, Chicago, you may actually have got it right this time, they need to hire either Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel. And I guess the only other name I would be okay with, and I don't think he's getting a job, is Pete Carroll. No one mentions Pete Carroll. But if you tell me it's not Ben Johnson, it's not Mike Vrabel, but then it is this guy and it's Pete Carroll, okay, I could say I'm fine with that. But no disrespect to Kellen Moore, Joe Brady, all these other guys, they're not preeminent names. They're not the top-of-the-line names. And the Bears need a top-of-the-line coach. And I get it. Vrabel, he was in Tennessee. People will be like, oh, what did Mike Vrabel win? Mike Vrabel was in Tennessee. Mike Vrabel, I know he had Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown, but his quarterback was Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill, folks. And he got to an AFC Championship game. He was consistently in the playoff mix in Tennessee. So I know there could be some concerns. Oh, Vrabel's a defensive-minded coach, and oh, what about the offense, and who's his offensive coordinator? All important. But Mike Vrabel's leader of men. Mike Vrabel is a player's coach, but he's not a doormat. And I think Mike Vrabel would be a stupendous hire. But if you don't get Mike Vrabel and you're hiring a coordinator, Ben Johnson is the creme de la creme coordinator in this class. And that's the guy, either him or Mike Vrabel, and then if it's not one of those two, it has to be Pete Carroll. Anyone else, though, Stu, I'm going to look back at this move and I'm going to say, well, what really changed with the Bears? All right, you got rid of Eberflus, but the only reason Eberflus got the job is because that was a cheap hire. Guy wouldn't probably get hired by any other team to be a head coach. So now you need to go overspend. You need to go to the top of the list, and you need to give it everything you can because, let's be real, there's been a lot of coaches that have been hired in Chicago. There's been a lot of coaches that have been fired in Chicago. There's been a lot of quarterbacks that have been in Chicago, and they never really had the franchise quarterback the way that the Colts have had a franchise quarterback with Peyton Manning, or the Patriots had a franchise quarterback with Tom Brady, or the Packers have had franchise quarterbacks with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. You know, I'm talking about within the last 30 years. If you want to go back to Bart Starr, you can as well. You know, they've never had one of those franchise quarterbacks in Chicago. And we talk about it, oh, when Caleb Williams throws for 4,000 passing yards in a season, that's going to be the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history. So I know we're a pass-heavy league, and that's been the trend for the last 10 years. The fact that they haven't been able to produce one in the last 10 years is mind-boggling. Like some of these quarterbacks, they sneeze, and they get to 4,000 yards now. So if Chicago doesn't deliver on one of those marquee names, I'll just throw my hands up, Stu, and you've seen this before with some of the names your team has hired. You got to swing big here, and you got to make contact. Because if they don't get this one right and they ruin Caleb Williams, there's already a stench in Chicago, but then that stench, like you can get the stench out of your home. I know it, like let's say you're driving a car and you go to the supermarket, and some people have done this, I have not, and you're going, you get in your eggs, you get in your bacon, you get in your sausage, you get in your milk, you get in your ice cream, you get in your fruit, you get in your spinach, all that stuff. You go have the big honey-do list, and you have to check everything off, and you have to get all your groceries. And then you're rushing, and you're bringing everything in the house. You're bringing the eggs, you're bringing the bacon, you're bringing the ice cream, you're bringing the fruit, you're bringing the spinach, you're bringing the cookies, right, the chips, but you leave the milk in the car. And then the milk in the car overnight, it gets expired, right, little sour smell, and then it is a disgusting stench in your car. But if you don't go get that car cleaned the next day, then that smell, it's never going to leave you. And it's going to be like that for a long time. The Bears right now have left the milk in the car. That's what Chicago has done. They've left the milk in the car longer than you're even allowed to. And now they have to get that milk out. They have to clean that car. They have to get the air freshener. They have to take it to the car service and run it, the car wash, and run it through the car wash, inside, outside, 4 or 5 times to get that smell out. Because if Chicago doesn't get the smell out this time, they're never getting the smell out. And there will be no reason until they are standing there in the postseason with the franchise quarterback, with the franchise head coach, and a great head coach to say, hey, this is why Chicago can actually get it done. But if they cut corners here, and if they hire some guy that you're like, who's that? Why did they hire him? And sometimes those guys turn out to be good coaches. But it's not as if you're in a bad position right now. You have bad ownership. You know, I don't trust Kevin Warren as the president. So there are flaws. There are reasons why people will want to pass. But your job should be good enough to get either Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel because you have the job on the market. And if they don't get that, one of those two guys, or Pete Carroll, like someone like that, like at least a respectable name, and you're taking a chance on Kellen Moore, who's just jumped around as offensive coordinators in the league, and Joe Brady, I get it. He was at LSU, hot shot, didn't work out in Carolina, now it's working out in Buffalo. He could be a good coach. But I'm not taking that risk where my franchise is at. This is really the franchise is on the line in Chicago. And if you swing and miss here, Stu, there's a perception that why should I ever believe in you? And you've been in that spot before.
Yes.
Where your football team, it's like, ugh, why do I believe in them? Why are they going to get it right? Even when they go on some, I don't want to say unprecedented, but they go on some runs that come out of the blue. In Chicago, whew, they don't get this one right. Why would I ever try to make people feel optimistic about their future?
Every team has a lot, looking for new coaches. Every team has a lot to gain, but the Bears, I feel like, have the most to lose. And kind of like you just said, like you have this jewel of a quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks, called a generational quarterback. The last 5 years, Caleb Williams. And year one, okay, hasn't been great. He showed ups and downs. Year two, if he doesn't make that jump and you hired a wrong coach, he could be ruined.
And you look at even the jobs that are on the market right now. Let's say the Saints bring in Aaron Glenn, right, to be their head coach, and it doesn't work. Did the Saints really have much to lose right now? They already had their run. They had Drew Brees. They had Sean Payton. Dennis Allen did not work. Dennis Allen was brought back this year. It never made any sense to me. They were trying to sell you Mickey Loomis, who needs to go, that Dennis Allen was going to be Bill Belichick in the second opportunity, which was always laughable to me. But you look at the Saints, if they continue to be bad for the next 2-3 years, there's such a foundation that needs to be built there. It's not like they really lost anything. You look at the Jets, they were all in this year, even when it was going the wrong way. Oh, we'll rush and pay Hassan Reddick, even though they took forever to do that. We'll go trade for Devontae Adams. But Aaron Rodgers was your quarterback. You have a young core that's still a good core, like a respectable core. They got to stop thinking that what doesn't stink, though, because some of those Jets players, they act like they're the greatest players of all time. You got to go win some games in this league before you can put yourself in the annals of NFL history where you think you are. But your quarterback situation was with Aaron Rodgers, and the Aaron Rodgers ship has sailed in the NFL. So if the Jets mess up this hire, they don't have a quarterback. They haven't had a good coach in a while. Yeah, you're afraid a little bit that you could mess up the young core, but you look at the Bears, this was a team that people going into the year were like, this is a good year for them. Like, they'll be 9-8, they'll be 10-7, and it will start for future success. It will really start to build building blocks for years and years and years of success. But you look at that division, Lions, they're a force. Minnesota, they were supposed to be the worst team in this division. They've been a really damn good team. The Packers are always a respectable organization. They just pump out franchise quarterbacks left and right, Super Bowl championships, and Hall of Fame jackets. But Chicago, after this year and how much this has plummeted because you had the wrong coach, it's kind of the feel of the Chargers with Brandon Staley, where the coach is that incompetent that just getting a good professional coach in there like you did with Jim Harbaugh, and I know Jim Harbaugh's not available because with the Chargers, look how it changed that organization. It's not as if the Chargers have this incredible amount of talent. They have Justin Herbert. Ladd McConkey's a solid football player, but they don't have a true number one wide receiver. They have a good offensive line. They're built the right way. They're coached the right way. And that's why you see this team this year looking like a team that should be in the postseason, where before the year I was like, it's kind of a wash year. But that's what happens when you bring in a good coach. And if Chicago can't bring in a good coach, then it's just going to repeat itself. Because that locker room, they were begging for someone to come save them. And that was a locker room that you could tell, like last night, Devondre Campbell quit on the Niners. The other Niners players did not quit on Kyle Shanahan and their team. It's not like Kyle Shanahan has lost the locker room, but Matt Eberflus, he lost the locker room. And when players know that there's an incompetent coach, you got no chance, because then you got guys making business decisions. You got guys that are 50-50. Oh, this coach doesn't know what he's doing. We're not put in a position to win. They need a coach that could go put them in a position to win. And you got to be really selective, because there's some years when no one want to touch your job with the 10-foot pole. I don't think this is one of those years. There could be concerns, but I do believe there's a lot of people that would want the Chicago Bears job, and they can't mess it up. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a timeout. We got one more segment to play. It is a Football Friday. You know what? I just said it was a Football Friday for the first time. Usually on a Football Friday, I say it in the first segment, the second segment, the third segment, but we're on location today. Wonderful job by the fine folks at USAA, Army-Navy, Radio Row. It's been a weird week where we haven't focused a lot on the games. You got no college football. You have Army-Navy this weekend, but you don't have a full slate of games, and a lot of people are focused on Army-Navy, focused on the Heisman Trophy. Like, these are individual events that are so cool and so special. And the NFL, last night we were talking about this, Thursday Night Football comes around for Week 15, and it's like, oh, we got a pretty decent game on paper between the Rams and the 49ers, but there wasn't a build-up this week, and I all think it's because of the Belichick news that did happen. And the Belichick news, it was such a bizarre one, him to UNC, where it's like, we pretty much did 2 days on full Bill Belichick going to UNC. And then you forget, there was a Thursday Night Football game last night. Army-Navy's coming up on Saturday. The Heisman Trophy is awarded out on Saturday. So in my mind, the way that I do this, I feel like I'm in Tuesday mode where we're still reacting, right? Coming off the weekend games, right? We got the college football playoff announcement as well. And then Week 15 has slowly crept on us where we already have a game. We got a full slate this weekend. You got Army-Navy as well, Heisman Trophy, so there's a whole lot to do. We'll come on back. We got to give out picks. We're going to have Stu give his picks this week. He'll give 3. I'll give 3 picks as well. And Stu, there's a lot of pressure on you because our guest pickers this year, I'll get the numbers on the other side, they have just been unbelievable. If you're listening to our guest pickers this year, you've won a lot of money. So we'll get to the picks coming up Week 15 of the NFL when we return from USAA Army-Navy Radio Row. It is the Zach Gelb Show. We send it back to our New York City headquarters with El Capitan, Marco Belletti, standing by with the latest Infinity Sports Network, Sports Flash.
Infinity Sports Network, Sports Flash.
Zach Chiefs hopeful to get a big weapon back very soon as Hollywood Brown returned to practice for the first time since his surgery in August. Unlikely he'll play Sunday against the Browns. Chiefs now have a 3-week window in order to activate Brown from the IR. Dolphins, Odell Beckham Jr., they mutually agreed to part ways as Beckham was released. Fit's not every day that a player refuses to play in a game, walks out on his team in the third quarter, but that's what Devondre Campbell did to the 49ers. Now, plenty voiced their displeasure. Kyle Shanahan was asked if maybe he's lost the locker room as they continue to struggle through a rough season.
I haven't lost anybody. That's somebody who doesn't want to play football. It's pretty simple. I mean, I think our team and myself, we know how we feel about that, so I don't think we need to talk about him anymore.
Now the 49ers will part ways with Campbell. Unclear if it's going to be a suspension without pay or if they're just going to release him. Jaguars put Evan Ingram on IR, needs surgery for a torn labrum. Cubs with a nice addition, reportedly get Astros outfielder Kyle Tucker. That in exchange for Isak Paredes, Cam Smith, and Hayden Wisniewski. 27-year-old Tucker, a career OPS of 870. And the Yankees add a big weapon to the back end of their bullpen. They get Brewers closer Devin Williams in exchange for Nestor Cortez and Caleb Durbin. I'm Marco Belletti.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network. That's it. Play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Part. Mike in Annapolis says, Zach, who do you think is going to win this Saturday between Army and Navy? You could submit a question by tweeting at INFSportsCenter or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I do think Army's going to win. Now, as you understand in these rivalry games, as we have just seen with Ohio State and Michigan, that whenever a team is expected to win, it doesn't mean that the other team doesn't have a chance. Navy has had a really good season. There was a while that we thought in the American Athletic Conference Championship game, you could see these two teams play and then play once again in Army and Navy. So there has been that thought that was going to be the case. Now, obviously, we know that wasn't the way that it transpired with Army beating Tulane and being American Athletic Conference champions. But I just look at Bryson Daly. There's a case to be made that he should have been a Heisman Trophy finalist. I just believe Bryson Daly is going to do enough to just run through and go find a way to get a victory for Army over Navy. And I'm a big fan of Jeff Monken. So I am going to take Army over Navy. But without further ado, and I'm not talking about Freddie Adu, it's time to get to some NFL picks.
It's time for NFL picks on the Zach Gelb Show.
So our guest pickers this year, Pat Boyle, Ariel Epstein, Trista Crick, Andrew Perloff, Pat McCarthy, Ryan Hot Take Hickey, Paul Pasps, Ricky Ricardo, Bart Winkler, Maggie Gray, Damon Amendolara, former Packers fullback John Kuhn, and Ari Temkin. They are 26-13. So if you are listening to our guest pickers and you have been placing your dinero on our guest pickers, you got a lot of cash. They're 26-13. I'm 21-18. I feel like I'm the Packers right now in the NFC North, for crying out loud. You know, I've had a good enough record where I would think I'd be pretty damn good. And Brian Jones is now back. He's staring me down. Hook him down, horns down. He's got a water bottle. Take cover. He's going to beat me up. He's going to beat me up. Jeez. Brian Jones, the PR people are getting mad at him because he keeps on stopping by our set and delaying him for going to the next segment. So, Stu, I don't want to put pressure on you.
I know.
But I'm kind of putting you in this spot because I'm hoping that your picks stink so I can make up some ground here.
It's an impossible spot, but I'll try my best.
You're either going to go 0-3 or you're going to go 3-0.
Definitely.
I don't think there's 1 and 2. Nope. I don't think there's 2 and 1
I
for
agree.
you. Alrighty, so I'll let you start things off. What's your first pick this week?
All right, I'm going to the AFC West with my first game, and it's a team that's been a little disappointing to some, but obviously the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. They have not done very well against the spread this year, but -4 at the Browns. I think this is the time where the defense shows up. They force Jameis into a few turnovers. Patrick Mahomes scores some points, and I think even on the road, the Chiefs win by a touchdown.
Would it change it if I made you take it at -4.5? Because I'm just using this site right here.
Now 4.5. I would go with that.
Okay, so Stu has the Chiefs laying 4.5. I just want to be using the same spreads. My first pick. This team, they put up a lot of points. Their defense absolutely stinks. And we saw that last week, and you'll continue to see it for the remaining 4 games. But I just got to trust that Joe Burrow is going to outscore Tennessee by a significant amount of points. Those points are 5.5. I know the game is in Nashville, but Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, I just got to think they're going to find a way to beat the Tennessee Titans by at least a touchdown. So give me the Bengals laying 5.5. Stu, your next pick.
All right, for my next one, I'm going to go with what a lot of people will probably see as an upset. I think the Dolphins going to Houston against the Texans. I like the way Tua's been throwing the ball. He's been putting up a lot of yards, decent amount of points. I just feel like this is a spot for the Texans where this could be a down week. Miami, I just think they can get it done. They can win by more than 3 points, so I'm going to go with the Dolphins to win, or maybe they lose by 1 or 2 points, but I think the Dolphins in this one.
And then that would be a rough stretch for the Texans, who also lost to Tennessee last week. All right, my next pick. You know where I'm going. If there's one team I'm picking this week, if you're doing the picks, who is it?
I would have to be the Falcons.
I'm not going to take the
Raiders. Yeah, don't do that. I advise against that.
Kirk Cousins hasn't had a touchdown pass, I think, in the last 4 weeks. He's been a turnover machine. This is a perfect get-right spot. The Raiders are gunning for that number 1 overall pick. They're going for that number 1 spot. Give me the Atlanta Falcons laying the 4 points this week. And Kirk Cousins, I already think he should be benched, but if you can't beat the Raiders by 4 and you can't find a way to cover that spread, then you really should be benched for Michael Penix Jr. And your final pick, Stu?
Yeah, my final pick, I'm going to go with the Chargers -3 at home against the Buccaneers. The Bucs have been a good story this year. They're 7-6. They're a good football team. Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback. I know Justin Herbert's a little banged up. That's the one thing that concerns me a little bit. But I just think this defense is going to show up like it's done with Jim Harbaugh the whole season. And I think the Chargers are going to have a very nice game, and they're going to win by a touchdown.
That's a sneaky good game.
Yeah?
Because in the 4:25 p.m. window, Colts-Broncos, who cares? Even though, right, playoff implications, but it's like low playoff implications. Bills-Lions is in the Sunday window. That's a marquee game. Steelers-Eagles, I'm going to be there at South Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field. Good game, 11-2, 10-3. Pats-Cardinals, you got 2 young quarterbacks, Kyler Murray and Drake May, but nothing to write home about. And then you get the Bucs and the Chargers thrown in there. That game's coming down to whoever's going to have the ball last. And I think it's going to be a sloppy game towards the end. And you got Herbert, assuming where his health is, and you also got Baker Mayfield. I think that's a quiet game that's flying under the radar. But for my last pick, I'm going to the Sunday night football window. Bum, bum, ba-da, bum, bum, ba-da, 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 bum. And I take a look at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers this year are going up against the Seahawks. The Green Bay Packers this year, what's their best win? Like, they beat the 49ers, they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Bears, the Jaguars, the Texans, the Cardinals, the Rams early in the season when the Rams are struggling, Tennessee and Indianapolis. They don't really have, like, a signature victory. And you look at Seattle, I still think the Rams are going to win that division. So I would like to see Seattle go down this week. But this is a big week for Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. I like the Green Bay Packers to not only win, but I like them to cover the 2.5-point spread. So I'm going all favorites this week. Bengals laying 5.5, Falcons laying 4, the Green Bay Packers, go Pack, go, laying 2.5. And Stu has, or a lot of people calling you Stuart today, because they see your name on the credentials. So everyone's going by your full first name.
I got a Stewart on my Starbucks order, but spelled the way I do not spell it. I was not happy. E-W-A-R-T. Which is the way most people spell it, to be fair, but...
You didn't have like a Bagel Boss guy freak down?
No.
And Stewart, Stewie, Stupac, Stewart, Stu, whatever people are going to call you, is going with the Chiefs laying 4.5. The Dolphins +3, and then the Chargers laying 3. Correct, Amunda?
That's right.
All righty, those are the picks for Week 15 in the National Football League, as we will enjoy the games coming up this weekend, and we will talk about it all on Monday, obviously. You could also catch me Saturday from 9 to 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on WFAN in New York City, and then on Sunday right back here on the Infinity Sports Network, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time for Sunday Morning Football. We'll be back in New York City on Monday for another Zach Gelb Show extravaganza, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. I'd like to thank the guys on set here. Corey, appreciate it. Thanks so much. Also, Dave, everyone that set this up, Tom, Jimmy, all do a great job. All the folks at USAA. Also like to thank Ryan Botcher back in our New York City headquarters, and Stuart Kovacs, who has survived the trip with me. And I am going back tonight. Stu's staying for the game tomorrow, so Stu does not have to take another train ride back with me. We appreciate you guys listening. Thanks so much. We will talk to you over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, where I told you, and then on Monday right back here on the Infinity Sports Network at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Make sure you follow me on social media at Zach Gelb. We'll get you all behind the scenes for the Heisman tomorrow night. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break.